Right. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 14th, 2025 Lawrence City Commission meeting. We're going to start the meeting with the rules read by Sherry Reedman.
Good evening, everyone. If you would please silence your cell phones. The primary format for accessing this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access cannot be guaranteed due to potential technology issues. When the mayor calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function. When prompted, select Join as Panelist. There will be a brief delay as your role changes. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn on your camera to provide your comments. Please state your name and zip code before providing your comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The city reserves the right to turn videos off or mute participants. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. All right, the first item on the agenda is to approve the item, and the City Commission reserves the right to amend, supplement, or reorder the agenda during the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the agenda by Finkeldye, seconded by Sellers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, the next item on the agenda is to proclaim the month of October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Adrienne Nunez, I believe, is here to speak to this. If you'd like to talk a little about this before I read the proclamation, that'd be great.
Thank you so much. My name is Adrienne Nunez, and I am the Director of Communications at the Willow Domestic Violence Center. And I have Danny Rossback with me, who is our court advocate. So we're here to talk today about October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence is an epidemic that deeply impacts Douglas County and Lawrence and communities everywhere. It is rooted in power and control, and it affects people of every age, gender, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic background. None of us is untouched by its ripple effects. At the Willow, many of us know us for our 24/7 crisis hotline and emergency shelter, but our work goes much further. We provide community and court advocacy. We have a human trafficking program, transitional housing, and prevention and education initiatives. Each of these programs is designed not only to meet immediate needs, but also to break the cycles of violence that can persist across generations. We are honored to serve survivors, and we are grateful to work alongside community partners who fight for stable housing, food security, and equality. We know that when basic needs go unmet, cycles of violence are harder to escape. And together, through prevention, support, and education, we are working to build safer, healthier futures for all. If you are looking for ways to support survivors this Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we do have our annual fundraiser this Thursday, Bijou. It's a Roaring 1920s theme, so please come out and support survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking. Tickets can be purchased at willowdvcenter.org/Bijou. And finally, I encourage you to follow us on social media to learn more about domestic violence, discover ways to help, and stay connected to work happening in our community. You can find those links on our website, which is willowdvcenter.org. On behalf of the Willow, thank you, Mayor Deaver and Commissioners.
Thank you very much for that highlight, and of course, the important work that you and others provide our community. I know the commissioners' community appreciate doing the hard work for the community and then helping those that need it the most. And I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation now. Whereas in the United States, 10 to 12 million adults experience domestic violence annually, with an average of 20 people every minute experiencing these heinous acts. And whereas in the state of Kansas, 1 domestic violence incident occurs every 23 minutes, and 1 domestic violence murder occurs every 11 days, and 1 domestic violence arrest made every 46 minutes. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is felt not only by individuals and families, but also by communities and as a nation as a whole. And whereas Lawrence joins with others across the state of Kansas and nationwide in supporting domestic violence victims and survivors, the advocates and organizations who serve them, and holding offenders accountable in our community. Now, therefore, I, Mike Dever, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and in recognition of the critical work being done by domestic violence advocates and allies in service of the survivors and the victims they serve. I encourage all citizens to actively engage in the scheduled activities and events sponsored by the Willow Domestic Violence Center and other organizations working towards the eradication of domestic violence. Thank you very much. All right, next we're going to move on to proclaim, I think, the month of October 2025 as National Arts and Humanities Month, and I see Porter is here to speak to this item. Good to see you, Porter.
Good to see you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Daniel B. Smith, the Chair of the Cultural Arts Commission, is online as well to just say very brief words.
That'd be great.
And turn it back to you.
Howdy, Commissioners. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thanks for the introduction, Porter. My name is Daniel B. Smith. I'm the chair of Lawrence's Cultural Arts Commission. I just really want to hop on and thank you all for taking this opportunity to recognize National Arts and Humanities Month. We are all very aware of the oversized impact that arts and culture have in our community. And it's really an opportunity throughout October to recognize that nationwide, arts and culture do just so much to enrich our lives and enhance the communities that we look to build. So I appreciate having a moment to hop on and say hi and say thank you for all of the whereases that will follow. And I'll let Porter take it from here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very
Daniel.
much.
I'm just here to receive it.
All right, well, thank you for being here to receive it and all you do for our arts and culture in the community. All right, I'm going to go and read the proclamation. Whereas the month of October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month by thousands of arts and culture organizations, communities, and states across the country for decades. And whereas Lawrence is renowned for its unmistakable identity, which includes its vibrant arts and culture ecosystem. And whereas the arts and humanities enhance and enrich the lives of Lawrencians and every American. And whereas the arts and humanities embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind. And whereas the arts and humanities play a unique role in the stories of our families, our communities, and our country. Now, therefore, I, Mike Dever, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2025 as National Arts and Humanities Month and call upon our community to celebrate and promote arts and culture and to encourage greater appreciation for arts and humanities in Lawrence. Thank you, Porter. All right, and lastly on the proclamations is to proclaim October 16th, 2025 as Imagine a Day Without Water Day. And I think we have Stephen Craig here today. Is that right? Yes.
Yep.
That's right.
Good to see you, sir.
You too. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Stephen Craig. I'm the Treatment Division Manager for the Municipal Services and Operations Department. Every year, Imagine a Day Without Water reminds us that water is the most vital resource that links our health, economy, environment, and daily lives. All we rely on comes from clean water, and access to it is a basic human need. The Municipal Services and Operations Department operates and maintains 2 water treatment plants, 2 wastewater treatment plants, 7 water towers, 32 wastewater pump stations, and hundreds of miles of water and wastewater pipes. Our dedicated team works around the clock to provide safe drinking water and dependable service, something that most of us rarely think about, but rely on every day. On behalf of our team, we thank you for this proclamation and for acknowledging the vital work our staff does to keep Lawrence's water flowing every day.
Thank you, Stephen. You forgot to add award-winning water.
We'll get to that next week.
Okay. I just want to make sure. It really is great to be here and recognize this and the work that you do to provide us with the water that we need as a community. And it's a great resource, and it's an economic tool, but it's also something that keeps us healthy and vibrant. So thanks for making sure it's safe and the quality is high. So I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas October 16th, 2025 has been declared as Imagine a Day Without Water, a national day of action that raises awareness about and appreciation for our most essential resources, encouraging all to highlight the critical importance of reliable access to safe and clean water in our lives. And whereas an estimated 2 million Americans are living without access to adequate drinking water and sanitation, recognizing the real value of water in our lives can help make sure that everyone in our community and all Americans have a healthy water future. And whereas water supply access is an ongoing issue across the western United States, including water resources in the state of Kansas, like the Kansas River, a vital source of water impacted by pollution, reservoir sedimentation, flood control, and harmful blue-green algae affecting public water suppliers and recreation. And whereas investing in our community's drinking water and wastewater systems with improvements to infrastructure will secure a more resilient future to protect this valuable resource for future generations with equitable water access for all. And whereas the City of Lawrence recognizes that water access is essential to the quality of life for all of our individuals and acknowledges the importance of educating the public about the value of water and the importance of our vital water infrastructure. Now, therefore, I, Mike Dever, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, do hereby proclaim October 16th, 2025 as Imagine a Day Without Water and encourage the residents of Lawrence, Kansas to actively learn about community water infrastructure and to use our voices, both online and in person, to share why water is essential, invaluable, and in need of more investment to ensure its equitable access across the entire nation. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Next, we're going to move on to item C, which is the consent agenda. And items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and approved by one motion. Members of the governing body may remove items for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public may remove items identified as quasi-judicial for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes for comments on those items. Is there any item we'd like removed from the consent agenda, commissioners? Okay, seeing none. I didn't see quasi-judicial in here, so is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion to approve the consent agenda by Finkeldye, seconded by Larson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, the next item on the agenda is the regular agenda item 1, which is to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting resolution number 7636, determining the city's intent to issue industrial revenue bonds in the amount of $25 million, which would provide a 10-year 70% property tax abatement and sales tax exemption on construction costs. The request was submitted by user H, a Lawrence 2 LLC, a Kansas limited liability company, which is a subsidiary of a U.S. engineering company holdings, a Missouri corporation for construction of an approximately 110,000 square foot U.S. engineering metalworks manufacturing plant in Lawrence Venture Park. The action is to conduct a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just checking in. Can you hear me okay?
It's cutting in and out a little bit.
Okay.
That's better.
All right. I might try to turn my camera off and see if that
No,
works a little bit. Okay.
That's better.
Excellent. Well, okay, great. Thank you. I'll go ahead and proceed then. Well, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is Brandon McGuire, Assistant City Manager. I'm joining you virtually this evening from the campus of Iowa State University. The timing for this public hearing overlaps with our economic development intercity trip to Des Moines and Ames. I will say, being up here and hearing so many success stories of industry-leading companies that are growing here in central Iowa makes me all the more enthusiastic about this particular project, which is a project that would enable U.S. engineering to grow its presence in Lawrence with a new manufacturing plant in Lawrence Venture Park. I do believe members of the U.S. engineering team.
Brandon, they might be here, but you might need to turn.
I think you're cutting out. Brandon, why don't you turn your camera off and let's try that.
We know you look 17. You don't have to remind us.
Okay. Can you try now? Negative.
We'll let the U.S.
Hey,
Yeah, I think
Brandon.
he was introducing.
Yeah, we're
representatives from US
going to go ahead and take our folks in the room and see if you can get your IT issue cleared up. Thank you. I have those all the time.
are in attendance in person this evening, and you'll hear from Mr. Wyckoff here in a few minutes. Will do.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Negative.
You guys can
It's okay, we got it done.
Okay.
raise that up a little bit if you want. There's a button there.
To the right, to your right. Just hold it in.
Just hold it for. Oh, here we go. Hold it for.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Tyler Knopberg, and I'm the Chairman and CEO of U.S. Engineering Company Holdings. And I wanted to briefly introduce our organization. We're a mechanical construction company. We actually we have a holding company. We've got 4 operating companies: U.S. Engineering Service, U.S. Engineering Construction, U.S. Engineering Innovations, and U.S. Engineering Metalworks. I'm very proud my family's been associated and a member of the great state of Kansas since 1889, and so always pleased to be here personally. But more importantly, I wanted to begin by thanking the city for the investment and the partnership that we've been able to have with you over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. You were here for us when we decided that we wanted to invest in and open up a facility for Metalworks back in 2022. We really appreciate the partnership with Brandon, with Steve, with many others who kind of helped make all of this possible. And it's allowed us to fulfill the promises that we made when you first helped us invest in the venture park back then. We'll be happy to go over some statistics, but one of the things that I wanted to point out is that when you look at this particular map that I have up on the screen right now, a lot of those red dots that are the red stars that you see on there, as well as some of the blue dots as well, represent project sites that we have been able to execute on with U.S. Engineering Metalworks over the course of the last 4 years that without this facility would have not been possible. Bringing jobs to the city of Lawrence, of course, has been very important, but one of the things that I've certainly enjoyed speaking with other leaders here in Lawrence about, and as well as members of the university here who we have a great internship partnership with, is that when you think about some of the largest and most complex mechanical projects that are performed in the United States with some of the largest and most important companies in the United States and world economy right now, those projects are coming right here from Lawrence, Kansas. And none of that would be possible without the good partnership that we've had with the city over the course of the last few years. So it makes a whole lot of sense for us to want to continue investing in that partnership and in the city of Lawrence. And we really appreciate the opportunities that you're giving us to do that as well.
Yeah, to add on to that, Brandon Wyckoff, president of U.S. Engineering Company Holdings. Metalworks, U.S. Engineering Metalworks moving to Lawrence was an awesome decision. Since 2022, we've had great success and we've really enjoyed being here. And now it's time to expand. So to reiterate what Tyler has just mentioned, we do operate out of 2 regions. We operate out of Lawrence, Kansas, and we operate out of Johnstown, Colorado. Our customers, our largest customers across the country, appreciate the fact that we do have some redundancy in what we're able to deliver to them from 2 different regions. And the dots and the stars do represent where product has been built here and shipped across the country. Those two locations add up to an equivalent of 275,000 square feet over 50 acres. This is a satellite view of each of those locations: Lawrence, the existing Lawrence facility on the left, and our Johnstown, Colorado facility on the right. And what we're looking to do at this point, just 3 years after we've moved and built the facility, we're looking to acquire the additional land to the north of our existing property simply to expand our outdoor storage area. That land otherwise, a few years ago, was deemed pretty unusable. There's a lot of rock, some challenges with the property itself, but we believe we can make it into a nice expanded storage area for our products that gets built and awaits our customers to need that product to ship. South of Venture Park Drive then became the area that appears to be ideal for what we're looking to do to build a new facility. The first phase of that facility is 110,000 square feet, and that facility is going to be designed to be expandable across the property that you see there. The jobs that we anticipate that the new expansion to create is 30 jobs in the first year of it being open, and then another 10 jobs every year thereafter, and as we expand. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that we've grossly exceeded our expectations on what our average head counts were going to be since we opened the facility in 2022 and what our average actual wages have ended up being. And so the table on the top shows that the projected head counts when we opened the original facility were going to be 70, 80, 100, and 130. And we've exceeded those head counts by having 50 the first year, but then 120 the second and 162 the third. And those average projected wages were estimated to be $72,800 per year, and we've exceeded those wages anywhere from $92,000 per person per year up to $112,000 per person per year. The projections for the expansion, which is in the table at the bottom for 2725 Venture Park Drive, is planned to be 30 additional people the first year, and then by the second and third up to 50, and the average projected wages up to almost $100,000 per person. So that's what we have for this evening. We really appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to expanding in the city.
No, we appreciate you doing so, making the investment in Lawrence already. I wasn't a part of the commission, but most of the people here were, I think, and I'm sure that they're happy to see the kind of numbers you display. I'm sure people present us great numbers all the time. Achieving those goals is sometimes difficult, but we appreciate you exceeding those. Not only the numbers, but the dollars that you're paying out is a substantial impact, so thank you very much for that. Any questions for the applicants? Okay. Brandon, does he have anything else to add, do you think, to this? Okay, great. All right, I think that'll do for right now. I don't have any specific questions. I think you did a good job of highlighting what was in the material, so thank you. Is there a public comment on this item? Thank you very much. Thank you.
It is a hearing, so we'll need to make sure we open the hearing.
Okay, so I am officially opening the public hearing. Okay, that's a public hearing for regular agenda item 1. Anybody online? Sherry?
Yes, we do have one. A couple.
Okay, thank you.
Jeffrey Hepler?
Hey, y'all, you hear me all right?
Yes, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Jeffrey Hepler, 66044. These guys look like they've done great work, and I was looking on the satellite imagery of that property and the expansion that they're interested in. It's pretty desolate. I do hope that whatever surface they put over, if any, is not impervious, like maybe there could be stormwater considerations taken into account. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Sherry, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
All right. Commissioners, this is Steve Kelly, 4529 Broadmoor Drive, speaking this evening on behalf of the Douglas County EDC and the Lawrence Chamber. I very much appreciate this opportunity to comment in favor of the proposed incentives for U.S. engineering. It's already been referenced that they have done a project here a number of years ago. And I think in the presentation, you've seen that they not only met, but exceeded by a considerable margin what they had committed to. I also wanted to comment that, throughout the first process, we had the issue of COVID that came up. They stayed with the project. We also found some issues at the site, and we're able as organizations to work together to surmount those challenges. And I think that in the ongoing discussions that have been occurring between the city, the company and also the chamber's been involved in this throughout, the chamber and EDC. There has been a consistent tone of working together in partnership to make this project happen. You know, and I think that their markets would indicate, and you know, all their research indicates that they're in a good position going forward to not only achieve, but again, to surpass what they're committing to from a company standpoint. So I would urge you to you know, give the strongest consideration to approving their request. And again, it's great to see a new company come, but it's even better, I think, to be in a position where a fairly new company is now an existing part of our business makeup, and they're able to make ongoing additions to their operations here and have plans to do so going into the future. So again, thank you for your service, but we're very strongly supportive of this action on your behalf. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
That's all the comments, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant or comments?
Well, I'll start by saying Steve looks like he has better internet service in Iowa than Brandon does. But anyway, appreciate all the work on this. I mean, obviously the Catalyst program, and this is the whole point of the project that started long before I joined the commission. But to have good, high-paying manufacturing jobs, you know, coming into our community is what we need more of, and certainly want to support this. And as you mentioned, you took one of the more challenging lots, and so we appreciate that. The new one you're getting is a little easier to work with, but we appreciate the one you took originally, because I think that also helped move the entire project forward. So certainly I support the Catalyst program, what's this doing, and appreciate this project coming forward.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good. I think I'm the only commissioner left that was on the commission when we ushered this program in, so.
Okay, the Catalyst program.
Yeah, the Catalyst program, and I always hark back to Diane Stoddard, who brought it to us, and other staff at that time. They thought outside the box, and this is where we're at today with it, and I can't be prouder of it, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had one quick question that came up. I know you kind of glanced over it in your presentation, but just wanted you to take a little moment to do a bit of a deep dive on the recruitment piece. I know you had said that you have exceeded expectations on the number of staff that have been added each year, and I looked at your projections. You talked a little bit about your partnership with KU as well. Is that your sole recruitment pipeline, or what is your pipeline? Because I don't think you're giving first-year grads 90,000. So where are we finding these folks?
That's exactly right. So the Metalworks is a union contractor, and we have a great partnership with local union 441 based out of Topeka. And so a lot of the manufacturing jobs that we're hiring range from apprentices all up through journeymen, but also include metal tradesmen categories and things along those lines, in addition to non-union staff that we hire that are employed for performing safety jobs, virtual construction jobs, logistics jobs. That's probably the best way to think about that. So recruiting people who are ready, but we also recognize that there's a war for talent, and having a partnership with University of Kansas for new grads, whether they end up working at U.S. Engineering Metalworks or at one of our other companies, we're very committed to continuing to try and support the next generation of leaders and people who are looking to get into the construction trades.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, in addition to, or as part of being a union contractor and getting those union team members that are coming out of Wichita, out of Topeka, and surrounding in the state, we also assist in that union gaining more people coming into the union. And the way we do that is through a program called a metal trades program. And so we can hire metal trades folks, professionals, directly, and have them sign up with the local union, and then that helps them work their way into an apprenticeship program. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So while you're up there, I had Two questions, really, because I wasn't around when you first came to town. I only read it through the news. But what draws people to use your company, and what draws people to work for your company? Is it a unique location in Lawrence? Is this a geographic suitability for you? Can you explain to me why Lawrence, and whether or not this is something that you planned when you first started this?
I'll give a couple of quick answers on that. I think one of the reasons why people are drawn to U.S. engineering is because of our culture. Mm-hmm. I think we have a very unique approach to construction. I think that looking at what off-site construction has done in terms of being able to allow us to perform some of the highest pressured, most safety conscious, high productivity jobs anywhere in the world, hyperscale data centers, laboratories, things along those lines. I think that people want to be part of what's on the cutting edge of construction, and we're there. The second part about why we wanted to be in Lawrence, my wife and her family are lifelong Jayhawks. I'm a huge fan of Lawrence. Brandon may or may not be in the same city in Kansas from an allegiance standpoint, but when we were looking around originally trying to figure out where does it make the most sense for us logistically to be able to project what we're doing around the United States, where is there a city, where is there a jurisdiction that we could really truly partner with, Lawrence was one of a number of options that we were looking at. And frankly, when you think back to when the Catalyst program was put in place and a lot of the diligence that we did early on, this seemed to be a city and an area that wanted a company like ours, and the venture park, of course, was just getting started. And so when we thought a little bit about the size of operation that we wanted to do, we thought, well, we need to probably dream pretty big, and then we needed to dream bigger, and then you pushed us, and then we pushed ourselves, and so that's kind of how we ended up here, if you go back into the archives.
Yeah, and I'll make a comment on why people want to come work for U.S. Engineering Metalworks here in Lawrence. Look, traditional construction is very challenging. Traditional construction is very difficult. And this gives people an opportunity to get into the trades and come work in a facility that we're extremely proud of. It's a nice facility. It gives them the opportunity to learn their craft, whether they want to stay in manufacturing or whether they want to venture out into the field, onto a job site later in their careers. And that's attractive to people. It truly is.
And then you mentioned the shops, the Topeka and Wichita shops, but can you clarify, most of those laborers are union members of those shops, but they live closer by, I would presume, and that you'd be drawn from a more regionally close.
Yeah, so Metalworks has people working through Local 441 and local Sheet Metal Local 2, and those people live in the surrounding area, right, mostly. Some are spread out a little bit further across the state, depending on the needs of our facility. They also travel, sometimes out of state, not necessarily for us, but for our competition, to go work in projects in Iowa, work in projects in Oklahoma. And so one of our goals is to try to keep them interested in working in-state and coming to the Lawrence area to work in our facility.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I want to make sure I got that clear. So appreciate your time and your energy on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah, so we appreciate all the work, and I am ready for a motion on this. Yes, so close the public hearing. Thank you, Commissioner. Close that public hearing. Now, we need a motion.
Move to adopt resolution number 7636, determining the city's intent to issue industrial revenue bonds in the amount of $25 million, providing a 10-year 70% property tax abatement and sales tax exemption on construction costs for an approximately 110,000 square foot manufacturing plant by Ursha Lawrence 2 LLC in Lawrence Venture Park.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Finkelthai and a second by Sellers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is more construction nearby to consider authorizing the city manager to execute guaranteed maximum price Amendment Number 1 to the Construction Management Agreement with McCown Gordon in the amount of $57,016,920 for construction of the MSO Campus Phase 2 project, MS1-00023B.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We have a cadre of folks here with us tonight, and I'll introduce some of them here in a minute. But just to lead off, we're happy to be here again tonight on the final phase of our MSO campus project. And we're going to be seeking approval for the last critical component of our operational consolidation for our organization, part of the organization. And we know that you're aware of how spread out we currently are and the variety of building types that we're currently in. These were not designed to serve our community at 100,000 in population. Rather, many of these buildings were serving the city prior to the 1980s when our population was under 50,000. So tonight, what we'd like to talk about is the importance of the needs that we have because of the changing size of the fleet that we have to service our community. It's significantly greater than it was in 1980. We are at a point where the safety of our team is compromised and our efficiency. We are not able to expand or adjust in the current at the current facilities that we're going to be discussing tonight due to their location next to the floodway. We've gone over this, I'm sure, probably more than you care, but it's something that we have to continue to remind ourselves. We recognize that these are expensive projects, and we also know the importance of the services that are provided to this organization and to our constituents in these buildings currently and hopefully our future phase 2. The central maintenance garage and solid waste divisions are both vital in maintaining our community as a place to enjoy life and feel at home. This second phase, the final phase, will bring online one more large building to house our central maintenance garage as well as our solid waste operations. You will see, as Andy and the team will present, their current work conditions and the opportunity we have to improve it for years to come through this second phase. As I've said before, staff, some of them here tonight, repeatedly have told me that this project will never happen. And I know the criticality of this project. And we need to work closely with our amazing team, as we have, to try to deliver on this promise to them. Dake Wells and McCown Gordon are here tonight to help share what we believe can be done to make this dream a reality. And also, we are within the total budget as promised. So I feel really good about that. We are looking to make design improvements that are necessary to operate in the community of today, not the community of yesteryears. And they will be shown to you tonight, showing you safety, efficiency, as well as sustainability, which are key things that we are working to help engage and empower our staff for at least the next 30 years. So with that, I would like to turn this over to Andy Entz, our lead engineer on this project, and he will introduce others as they come forward.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Andy Entz, Engineering Program Manager for the Municipal Services and Operations Department and Project Manager for the MSO Campus project. I will, like Melissa said, I will be presenting an update on the project with the Dake Wells Architecture Design Team and the McCown Gordon Construction Management Team. We last presented a project update in May of this year. Since then, there's been a lot of progress on Phase 1 construction and Phase 2 design, which we're excited to share with you tonight. Here's the agenda for tonight's presentation. We'll start with the MSO campus project history and needs. Then we'll provide an update on the Phase 1 construction project progress, and then provide an update on Phase 2 design, schedule, and budget. Finally, we'll review the requested commission action item. It's kind of hard to see up there, but here's a timeline of the MSO campus project history. The idea of a consolidated field shop was first presented to the commission in 2017. In 2019, the commission authorized staff to begin preliminary design, and Dayquel's was selected as the design team. Also at that time, the city-owned farmland site was recommended for the MSO campus location. Dayquel's evaluated existing city facilities and operations and developed the MSO campus plan, also incorporating feedback from numerous neighborhood public meetings. And then in 2023, McCown Gordon was selected as the construction manager to collaborate with the city and Dayquel's to finalize the Phase 1 design, schedule, and budget. In April of 2024, this team recommended to the commission a project budget and accelerated schedule to reduce the overall project cost by $3 million. Phase 1 construction began with the groundbreaking in December of 2024 and is progressing on budget and schedule and is expected to be complete in mid-2026. Phase 2 design is nearing completion, and we're here tonight to request approval to begin with Phase 2 construction. With that, I'll pass it off to Dan with Dayquel's.
Thanks, Andy.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Dan McGinn, Dayquel's Architecture. And in doing our pre-design work all the way back in 2019, we became aware of the challenges that many divisions currently have with regard to doing renovations or additions in their current locations. This chart looks at the top 4 overriding issues, and I think some of you have seen this chart before. Needing major deferred maintenance, being critically undersized, having site size limitations, and being in restricted floodway areas. Phase 1, which houses the 8 divisions shown grayed out, addresses these critical issues, and that's under construction, so that's good. Phase 2, which will house the central maintenance garage and solid waste division, is shown at the bottom. The red rectangles denote a critical issue for that division, so you can see 7 of the 8 boxes for Phase 2 are critical. I can advance. Here are some existing conditions images. The image on the left shows the truck being serviced outside in the elements due to lack of proper maintenance bay space. This happens quite a bit, unfortunately. And the image on the right shows multiple trucks in need of maintenance lined up in the elements outside of CMG. This slide shows how existing staff support spaces in both the CMG and solid waste are undersized and outdated. And these don't support employee attraction and retention goals. Here's a list of current issues at the CMG and some images to kind of illustrate those issues. The top issue is really an insufficient quantity of vehicle service bays, and the ones that are there are undersized in all dimensions. The image on the left shows a fire vehicle being serviced, and as it's lifted up there, missing the roof structure by inches. Another key issue, the cramped spaces at CMG contribute to hazardous working conditions, as you can see from the center and right images, a lot of pinch points. Another issue I mentioned earlier, mechanics have to work outside at times amidst moving vehicles and out in the elements, and that's not a safe or efficient practice. And I already mentioned that support spaces like offices, training rooms, locker rooms, meeting rooms are all undersized. And in addition, bulk fluids, parts inventory, tire inventory are all also undersized. And finally, a lack of exterior space for proper vehicle staging. Some additional images showing the cramped conditions. Standard best practices would include a clear work zone around the vehicle for tools and workbenches to be located in and to allow mechanics to safely circulate between vehicles. Another image on the right of a mechanic working outside. This slide shows a comparison between the existing maintenance garage facility at 11,670 square feet on the left, shown in blue, and our facility that we designed in collaboration with the city, shown in red, which has an operational footprint of 74,950 square feet. Our design is based on modern best practices for vehicle maintenance and includes room for future growth. We worked really closely with both Central Maintenance Garage and Solid Waste staff on the development of the floor plan to ensure their buy-in on the final design. Another of the 4 boxes on the red grid of issues that I showed you earlier had to do with flood risk. This is a familiar slide from past presentations to City Commission. The Lawrence City Code deals with development in floodplains in Chapter 20, Article 12. The code is very clear that new construction or improvements are prohibited within the floodway. Many of the requirements in this article are not met at 11th and Haskell. And as you may know, the site has already flooded before, and here are some images from previous flood events. And some quick thoughts on flood risk and emergency response implications. As you know, solid waste, central maintenance garage, streets, stormwater, and the fueling station are located near each other at 11th and Haskell. The bluish purple area is the 100-year floodplain, and the reddish orange overlay is the actual floodway, which is designed to be active in a flooding event. It's the area that's projected to actually carry fast water and debris. I've been practicing for 35 years now, and I can honestly say that I've never seen a municipal building or a fuel station operating in an active floodway. So we're pleased to see them eventually relocated at the MSO campus. Even if renovating or adding to these facilities were allowed by code, we wouldn't recommend it for safety reasons and for the substantial risk that key city services located in this area would not be able to respond in an emergency. These crews are first responders. They keep the city running, and they are exactly in the wrong area. Lawrence isn't the only municipality dealing with this issue. In 2017, heavy rain caused flooding, which took out the city of Leawood's entire Parks and Rec department fleet, disrupting their operation and forcing them to split the department, temporarily relocating in Leawood facilities elsewhere. It's not a matter of will there be a similar event in Lawrence, it's a matter of when. Quick summary of the benefits of a single Phase 2 facility out at the MSO campus. Consolidation of the CMG and solid waste will increase operational efficiency. It will resolve the 4 issues outlined in the red grid I showed earlier pertaining to size, deferred maintenance, site challenges, and floodway issues. It will result in a modern facility based on industry best practice standards, which will help with the attraction and retention of staff. It will result in the best use of a challenged farmland site. It will meet the city's sustainable capital projects policy, including meeting LEED Gold, which we are currently tracking, and it will allow key city services to support first responder strategies. And then finally, it will be designed with the future in mind through the use of durable and maintenance-friendly systems sized for flexibility and future staff growth. Quick look at the schedule. The dashed magenta line represents us here today. The top dark blue bar that kind of stretches across the top there shows Phase 1 construction, which is proceeding per schedule, wrapping up in the third quarter of 2026. The other 2 bars going across show Phase 2 progress. The middle bar, which kind of starts off that kind of lighter blue color, shows that a lot of excavation and site prep and utility work have already occurred in 2025, taking advantage of site crews that were already mobilized for Phase 1. Phase 2 construction, to keep that line going, scheduled to start mid-February, although some long lead time items will be ordered before then. And then the bottom bar, kind of that medium blue color, shows that we're nearing the end of Phase 2 core design, which ends mid-December. We're currently at 50% construction documents as of yesterday, coordinating closely with McCown Gordon. And once the core design is complete, we transition over to fixture, furniture, equipment, and interior design in the building in the first quarter of 2026. So we'll drill down a bit more on Phase 1 construction, and then we'll move on to Phase 2 design. Phase 1 is shown in blue here and includes the entrance road, the MSO building itself currently under construction, the fueling station, the wash bay, also nearing completion there, site structures, and vehicle parking. And we're on budget and on schedule. Little design recap. Here's a drone shot from 2023 looking north, showing the Phase 1 site. And here's the design that's currently being constructed. It's a campus where a lot of industrial type work happens, obviously, but you can see that the entrance drive and the acoustic features include a lot of native landscape elements like trees and grasses that help soften the industrial feel. As a reminder, we worked closely with the neighborhood on the final layout. Their comments led us to increasing the buffer between the buildings and the neighborhood and improve the design. We're still tracking LEED Gold, and we're confident we'll hit that target. Recent image of progress. I was just out there a couple days ago. It looks really good. Now on to phase 2. Here's the site plan again, showing the limits of phase 2 in the tan color. It includes a single structure housing the central maintenance garage and the solid waste division, and associated vehicle parking and site structures and roadways to connect it to the rest of the campus. Here's a shot showing site preparation progress. I mentioned earlier, as part of the phase 1 project, it made sense to prep the site for phase 2 while the equipment and manpower were already out there to avoid costs associated with remobilization. Site prep has included removing existing structures and foundations, cutting and filling the site to achieve final grade, and installing initial site utilities. Here's a drone shot from 2023 looking west, showing the phase 2 site. And a rendering of the campus with phase 1. You can kind of see to the upper left, about 35 to 40 feet above phase 2, which is located in the middle right. Phase 2 has a drive-through bays cutting through the building in both directions for maximum operational flexibility. And you can see some of the sustainability measures here with photovoltaic panels installed on the roof, and you can see the kind of roof form where the photovoltaic panels are sitting. That's a translucent daylighting system, which will provide glare-free light to the maintenance bays below and reduce energy costs, and more of the native landscape elements like trees and grasses to soften the impact of the facility. And then in the foreground, you can see some of the various site structures to support the operation. Here's a rendering of the south facade of the main building. Our goal in the design was to create a facility that was extremely durable and maintenance friendly. We're using the same insulated precast concrete wall panels that are being used in phase 1, up to a datum of 16 feet. And then above that, in the maintenance bay areas, we're using a zinc composite metal siding. And on top of that, you can see the translucent daylighting system I mentioned before. Here's a rendering of the main vehicular entrance to the maintenance bays, which is located between the solid waste administration wing to the left and the central maintenance garage administration wing to the right. Again, the idea is to create something that kind of celebrates durability and reinforces a sense of civic pride. And I mentioned before, it's a place for vehicles and intensive physical work, but it's also a place for people. So we've included native landscape features like trees and grasses to kind of soften the areas where staff are located. Phase 2 is also comfortably tracking LEED Gold. Rendering of the shop interior showing the central maintenance bays. Vehicles circulate down the main diagnostic lane of the building, getting to the proper work bay, or they can also enter the bays via the many overhead doors. The building was truly designed from the inside out with a lot of close interaction between the design team and CMG and solid waste staff in McCown & Gordon and the city. The flow of vehicles and staff through the building informed the overall shape of the building, and the materials both inside and out were selected for maximum durability. And here's an enlarged site plan showing the location of CMG in red tones and the solid waste division in blue tones. The main operational efficiency of locating the two divisions in the same facility is that solid waste is the CMG's biggest customer, so it made a lot of sense to co-locate them. And aside from the main building, there are a lot of site structures to support the operation, and we're looking forward to seeing this under construction. That's it on the phase 2 update, and I'll turn it over to Scott for additional presentation.
Good evening. Scott Kimsey, Vice President Pre-Construction with McCown Gordon Construction. To reiterate what Andy mentioned here previously, back in April of 2024, we were here before you guys and presented a plan to save $3 million to the project through escalating the design and construction of Phase 2. This was to reduce escalation first and foremost, but also helped drive operational efficiency across the entire construction team from the GC, from the construction manager perspective especially. Also allowing us to procure materials earlier, which has become a bigger and bigger deal, especially as we've gone through the tariffs and things that we're starting to see in today's market. So I'm happy to present that the GMP that we're asking for approval today of $57,016,000 and some change works right inside of that budget. If you see here on the right side of this right column here, total project cost of $130.1 million is where we're sitting today. The Phase 2 project cost of $65.3 million is in the box highlighted in the middle. And just as we did with Phase 1, we've continued to carry contingencies forward into this GMP to allow for some flexibility in dealing with the unknowns as we go through completion of design. As Dan said, he's got a couple more months of design left to vet all the final details and whatnot out. We've got continued construction contingency in the budget to deal with unforeseens as we get through the construction process, and we had that, carried that in Phase 1 and have used some of it. Some of it may end up being returned at the end of the day or allow the city to reinvest in future desires, wants, needs for the project. And we have been able to maintain a $2.5 million owner contingency inside that $65.3 million budget.
Hi, good evening. Arlen Kleinsorge with McCown Gordon Construction, Project Executive. Just a quick reminder on some of the benefits of CM at risk, construction manager at risk. And it's been said a couple times, but by combining these two phases, we were literally able to save over $3 million. And that cost, again, goes back into the project. Some other reasons, big advantage for us is because this was an existing fertilizer plant, it allowed us to put a very solid plan in place to help mitigate any kind of soil issues. And we've been able to do that very successful to date. New on the horizon has been tariff implications, staying on top of that by being on board early. And like Scott had said before, long lead items. In this case, on Phase 2, it's going to be pre-engineered metal building, precast, and then also generators, very long lead item. The other thing, advantage of getting some trade partners on board early and having an early GMP is we're able to bring them on board and help with design, just to help design assist, and also with long lead items to help get that procured. But at the end of the day, really the whole team, the city, Dake Wells, us, just continue to look at cost options as we continue through construction. So we talked a little bit about design. I'll quickly go through the Phase 2 construction schedule. Again, with the GMP being decided tonight, it allows us to start that procurement now for Phase 2. So in March, we can really hit the ground running of 2026. It's about a 19-month construction process with about a 3-month overlap in Phase 1 construction. And that gets completed summer of 2026. A couple milestones to note. The building structure is complete in February of 2027. Building envelope later that summer with a substantial completion date the first part of November of 2027. And that allows the city and all their folks to move in by the end of 2027. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Andy.
Okay, here's the commission action being requested tonight. Guaranteed maximum price amendment number 1 is expected to be the only GMP amendment for MSO Campus Phase 2 project. And it includes the construction of the Phase 2 building, all the related site work, 2 additional wash bays, Additional site features such as a polycart wash hut, storage in the covered bulk bin storage area. GMP Amendment Number 1 is within the authorized project budget, and no additional funding is being requested. We really do appreciate the support the commissioners have given this project, and we're excited to see how much has been completed. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Andy, any questions?
Andy, I know this is kind of a little bit of armchair, but also guesstimating. With us doing the overlap, and we do have a $3 million savings, knowing what we know about the tariff situation and lead times, where could we have potentially been if we did not maximize CM at risk?
If we would have, so like if we had done a traditional design bid build,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if you remember, like, kind of, I think one of our first estimates that came in was over $150 million. And so then, and that was prior to April of 2024. And we worked with Dake Wells, we worked with McCown Gordon to see what options there were to reduce that cost to get to a budget, this budget that we arrived at. Actually, it was $133 million, and then we thought, well, actually, Melissa was pushing us, let's try and speed this up even more, because we were seeing escalation, especially through COVID, we were seeing escalation of 8, 9, 10%. And so she really pushed, and the team pushed to speed it up even more to find some of those savings from reduced escalation costs.
Thank you.
Just a question or two about the construction. You know, we talked about this being a central maintenance garage, and today's vehicles look one way, they look different, 50 years before. That's why our garage looks like the way it does today. What kind of plans, what kind of future proofing in this building did we put into, what sorts of changes might come to the maintenance of vehicles, the sort of things that are needed to be done to vehicles in the future, especially if we move to more non-ICE related, vehicles. So whether they're hydrogen, whether they're battery operated, whether they're CNG, whatever. CNG not so much because they're still, but the less we need to work on these vehicles, the engines, that's going to switch over how we're going to be working on the vehicles themselves. Were those things thought about when we are creating these workplaces, creating these bays, and are there these design standards for those kind of things where fleets are mixed, where combination of ICE and maybe EV or some other platforms? And I want to make sure that, we're allegedly this is for the future. We don't know what our future vehicles are going to look like. I want to make sure that we're going to be able to work on these vehicles in an efficient manner 20 years from now, or 10 years even.
Yeah. Well, the vehicles certainly haven't been getting smaller.
No, they haven't.
And so the size is a big part of it. We do have Robert Aaron here, who does know a lot about working on vehicles. I don't know.
Yeah.
Robert, do you have any thoughts on
I want to make
just
that
future-proofing?
Yeah, the design of these bays and,
Thank you, Robert.
Good evening, Robert Aaron, Municipal Service Operations Fleet Manager. When it comes to the future of the mobile world, if I had a crystal ball, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. But you mentioned hydrogen. Typically, hydrogen, I was at the ACT Expo this year, which was great information, but the hydrogen, when it comes to heavy vehicles, typically will still be an internal combustion application. So fuel cells are probably going to be for smaller vehicles. So the vehicles we'll be working on will be very similar. There'll be some design changes, but to future-proof it, it's probably going to look very similar to what it is today.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because.
Yeah, I mean, those considerations, we talked about lifts and what it would look like with batteries and that type of applications. So
That's one thing I wanted to make sure we did. And then the The translucent daylight panels, they're made of a different material than the more, you're the vehicle, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah. The translucent, we're going to have different materials on the outside of the building. Some are more durable than others. Are these panels, do they have a useful life? Have they been road tested? I've seen these things wear differently, and I'm just curious what kind of materials you're thinking about there.
Yeah, Dan McGinn, Dake Wells. The basis of design product is CalWall, which has been an industry standard insulated translucent solution for years and years and years. So it's definitely road tested in industrial applications like this, also office buildings, and has really good like UV resistance. It maintains its color, provides good insulation, and also just lets a lot of great daylight in. So it's definitely a high durability product.
Yeah, the solar radiation seems to be affecting some of them, and I've noticed. That's why I asked.
Yeah, we did both daylight and energy modeling, and we're able to kind of plug this material in, and it really is beneficial to reduce heat gain, but also just to let that glare-free daylight into the rooms.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was it.
I got a quick question. Yeah, I get asked this question a lot about this project by the members of the community, and that is we started this out several years ago at about $28 million, even less than that before then. How did we get from there to where we are today at $130 million? I know there were several phases initially that were going to be done, and now we're down to 2 phases.
Slide. We had some extra slides. Is the PowerPoint up here, or is this the PDF? That is the PDF. Okay. Do you happen to have that? Well, so, I did mention early on the 2017, that was kind of the first look at a consolidated field campus. Prior to that, we'd been looking at a water distribution, wastewater collections field shop. And that's, that initial price was $8, $9, $10 million. There was also a separate project for a solid waste facility. And so I don't think we really had any idea of what divisions would be included and how that pricing, we had these separate projects and some estimates on pricing there, but we didn't really have a combined total price until we brought Dake Wells on board and gave us some realistic feedback. And so I would say the CIP prior to that was more based on those separate buildings and not so much what Dake Wells provided us after they actually went through looking at our existing facilities and our operations and seeing what we actually need.
Okay.
So, Dan, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, I mean, one of the things that's just been different in the last few years than my 35 years is just the impact of COVID escalation, which I think someone had mentioned 10%, but there was one year where it was approaching 20%, and that starts to really impact some early numbers that we reported even once we were on board, which we in 2020 kind of talked about a range for the divisions that are in the project now, not some of the divisions that ended up not being in the project, but just the ones that are currently in play. We had estimated a range based on really early projections of 95 to 115 million, and came back at the very beginning of 2021 saying that we thought the range for the divisions we're talking about was about 111. Once you start layering on the escalation that happened, it's well over 130 million. So it's been a very interesting time to be an architect, I can say, because every project has had this challenge. And one of the things that just has really helped out this project is just the idea of going from, initially we had 5 phases, I think.
Yeah.
7 phases. And taking it down to 3 phases, which brought us to about like 145 million, and then the final push to get to 133, and then the final push to get to 130.
Thank you. So the only department I'm not seeing, I think the only department is Parks and Rec. At one time, that was part of the plan, wasn't it? But
Yeah, back in that presentation in 2017.
Okay.
That was, Parks and Rec was looked at as a potential to move out there, to be in a consolidated facility. At that point, we didn't know the farmland site was going to be the site. We had some initial discussions, and it really, they prefer having at least my understanding is not a consolidated location, because they do have, a facility for the cemetery and a facility out by the golf course and YSC and those. And so that's kind of how their operations works. And so we did look initially at horticulture and forestry, potentially moving there to the campus, the MSO campus site. But their facilities at 11th and Haskell were out of the floodway, and even out of the forestry is out of the floodplain even, I believe. And so they ended up staying, I'd better check my map here before I say that. No, it is in the floodplain, but it's,
Well, actually,
yeah. And so, anyway, that's, they ended up not being part of this project. And we also did have to kind of reduce the scope. HHW, we thought, well, does HHW move out, household hazardous waste move out there, and they have a fairly new facility, so that didn't make sense for that. And so
Okay.
this is where we ended up on these most critical facilities.
thank you.
Thanks.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions, Brad?
I don't have any questions.
I think that's it for questions from us at this point in time. Is there public comment on this item?
Kurt, there's a public comment slide I sent to you. The John slide?
Yeah.
That's it. Gotcha, hold on.
The John slide.
While he brings that up, this was put together by Holly Krebs and the Coalition for Collaborative Governance. My name is John Ems, 66049. I would just want to talk about debt, which is represented in these charts with respect to the MSO and all the required work that's necessary. We've talked about how it was originally in 5 phases over 8 years, and now it's 2 phases over 3 years. And thanks for the email dialogue I've had with commissioners on this prior to tonight. But it appears that price tag of $130 million within 2 years is a substantial reason for the skyrocketing debt that the city is experiencing. So the issue with the 2-phase approach is not whether it's necessary or whether it generates efficiencies, but it's an affordability issue. And you know that you've had citizens, myself included, that are very concerned about the debt that the city is producing. And so even though the 2-phase approach results in $3 million savings due to construction efficiencies, and commissioners are taking comfort in the belief that the debt payments max out in 2027 and 2028, when you look at these charts, which are resulting from the budget Q&A that we've had in the past and the response to question 38, as well as the Lawrence Water Wastewater Rate Model dashboard, it reveals that the total debt payments spread out over the intended years continues to climb well past the 2027-2028 model. In fact, the debt service payments keep climbing from nearly $51 million in 2029 through $54 million in 2030, onward to $55 million in 2033 and beyond. A downward trend does not begin until 2035. And I might not be around then, but you'll be passing on a large debt load to future commissions.
the model you've built to use the GO bond reserves to get you to 2032 isn't sufficient to run out and make the debt curve until way past that point. So I'm asking you to please reconsider your MSO timeline and spread out that spend. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Hi, Whit Gerke, 66049. I'm speaking tonight as a citizen, but would like to give you the perspective of a technician. First off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you today, and for bringing the discussion of the new maintenance garage facility to this important stage. Your process, your time and consideration and commitment to addressing this operational need for our city is greatly appreciated by all of us who do the work to keep the fleet functioning and services running efficiently. As you're aware, the current maintenance garage is no longer adequate to meet the needs of our growing fleet. Over time, both the vehicles that we maintain have grown in physical size and in number. This includes larger utility trucks, emergency vehicles, and specialized equipment that are essential to keep the city running efficiently. This limitation not only poses an operational challenges, but serious safety concerns for our staff. The cramped conditions hinder safe movement around vehicles, they restrict the use of necessary equipment, and they limit the ability to perform maintenance tasks efficiently and without risk. Additionally, the lack of space has made it increasingly difficult to house the skilled personnel required to keep the fleet's demands, which continues to grow alongside our community. We believe that investing properly in properly designed and adequately sized maintenance facility is not just a matter of convenience. It is a matter of safety, responsibility, forward planning. Providing our staff with the space they will need to ensure safer working conditions and extend the life of our city's assets will allow us to maintain a higher standard of service to our residents. And again, thank you for recognizing the importance of this issue and moving forward with the conversation.
Thanks.
Good evening, commissioners and city manager. My name is Mike Brown. I'm the solid waste operations supervisor for solid waste. I've been a city employee since '99, so I've been in that facility since '99, or sorry, 2000. Started in utilities at first. I'm here to strongly recommend that the city pursue the construction of a new solid waste operation facility and central maintenance facility, rather than to continue to invest additional resources into maintaining and repairing our two existing structures. After a thorough evaluation of operational needs, safety standards, and long-term financial impacts, it is clear that our new facility will deliver greater value, efficiency, sustainability in the city, for the city and its residents. Currently, the Solid Waste Division operates out of two buildings that separate by 2.7 miles from each other, along with two additional storage sites for all of our tanks and carts. The facilities are never designed for modern solid waste operations. Their limited space, poor traffic flow, and outdated infrastructure significantly restricts our ability to operate efficiently. A purpose-built facility would consolidate operations under one roof, enhancing efficiencies, collaboration, and service delivery. The two existing facilities continue to require frequent repairs to ventilation, roofing, flooring, plumbing, electrical systems. While each repair may be manageable for
recurring costs add up significantly over time. Without improving functionality and extending the building's life, a new facility would drastically reduce maintenance costs for decades, allowing those funds to be redirected towards equipment replacement, staffing, and service improvements that directly support our safe and secure community and infrastructure and asset management goals. Modern safety and environmental standards have advanced well beyond what our current facilities can reasonably accommodate. A new facility would allow full compliance with OSHA, ADA, environmental regulations, while creating a safer and more comfortable workplace for our employees. Beyond operational benefits, this project represents an investment into long-term infrastructure that supports prosperity, reliability, and responsible stewardship of public assets. A modern solid waste operations and central garage facility will provide the foundation for the future growth, fleet expansion, involving community service needs, all while ensuring that we...
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. You have to forgive me, as my coworkers say I talk a lot, but I'm not much of a public speaker, so I'm going to read off this. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Cates. I'm a Master Mechanic 2 at City Maintenance Garage, as well as born and raised Lawrence citizen. Thank you for the consideration of the process of building a new maintenance garage and how it will benefit the future of the city. Building a new shop will eliminate the space constraints we currently face on a daily basis, as well as improve the overall working conditions. With the city continuously growing, the size of the fleet must also increase as well. In addition to the size of the fleet growing, the size of the apparatus have grown since the current shop was built. With the building of a new shop and having more space to work on these apparatus, efficiencies will go up, thus allowing the apparatus to stay in operation and improving the efficiencies of all the other departments as well. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room want to speak to this item? Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, I am Colton Walter. I am a field supervisor with Solid Waste. So mine will be short and sweet, and it's going to pertain to the physical space within our current building. So when employees are present in the current common area of this facility that we are currently in, it is shoulder to shoulder. At least one employee, including myself, is commonly eclipsed by somebody else, hidden behind them. We have some fairly large employees, and I'm not small, and I'm still hidden behind people because of the just literal lack of space. So smaller meetings among staff and supervisors, it is often preferred, but it should be out of our own volition, I think, rather than due to a lack of space. And dissecting safety meetings with outside contractors results in multiple sessions, prolonging the workday, affecting attention spans, and ultimately upping the costs. And lastly, we have 3 restroom stalls for over 70 employees, and that's problematic in its own sense. So super appreciative of considering us at Solid Waste. I know I can speak for Solid Waste when I say that. Being under one roof, one larger roof, would eliminate almost all of these issues. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else around the corner? Okay. How about online, Sherry?
Yes. Sorry, Mayor, we do have someone with their hand up, but I'm not accepting my invitation. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so I've twice invited them, and they've declined to be promoted to panelists, so.
Okay. And does Jeff Hand, is that the one you're talking about?
It is.
Okay.
But his hand's still up. I can give it a shot one more time. See if we can get him in. Yeah, Ed.
Okay. We can perhaps come on later and talk about it. All right. I think that's it then. Nobody else? Sure.
My name's Allison Allmiller, 66044. I actually live really close to the current facility. I have a few disparate questions, I guess. One is about the new proposed structure. I know you guys talked about the translucent panels for adding daylight to save on energy and stuff. Have you guys considered putting solar panels on to also save on energy? Is that something that's part of it that I just missed? Okay.
Well, you can, is that the only question you have?
I have more questions.
Okay,
but-
why don't you ask those questions
Ask
and
us
then
what
we'll
you
get the answers.
Okay. I was also wondering about the vehicles that are stored there. It's sanitation vehicles, the ice plows, stuff like that. I know at the facility on 11th and Haskell, I see a lot of police vehicles there. Is that where they're stored, or is that just where they go to have maintenance done on them? And then I was also wondering, I guess you said it's just maintenance there? Okay. Yeah, I guess those are my questions. I was just wondering about space-wise for the patrol vehicles
Sure.
in addition to the sanitation vehicles, but
Okay,
that's
Thank you,
those are my
Allison.
questions.
sounds good. Okay, so a question on solar. Did you consider the solar panels?
Um, Um, Dan again with Take Wells. Yes, we do have photovoltaic panels on the structure, and they've been, their impact has been worked into the energy model that we've done. Okay. And then it is a maintenance vehicle, or a maintenance facility, so it is for maintaining, not necessarily storing buildings.
So, yeah, and can you just, I know we talked about trying to use the highest level of sustainability, affordable, so we're getting gold, we're on track for gold LEED certification. Can you just kind of talk about the sustainability measures utilized in order to achieve that status quickly? Just so, it's not just solar panels, there's lots to it, and I just.
Yeah, there's high efficiency HVAC system, all electric building. The daylighting is really big. There's a lot of points associated with well-being of the crew, and the irrigation-friendly landscaping contributes high insulation values on the walls. So we've, from the very first design meetings, we've been tracking a LEED strategy that has kind of helped us where we are now, which is really comfortably into LEED Gold. Trying to think of any other obvious sustainable. What am I forgetting? Yeah, it's been a topic that is in every one of our meetings. We talk about it, and are we pushing enough? What's the right level of sustainability? And it's really affected our design.
And then the second one was, we're working on vehicles, so those vehicles, squad cars, other patrol cars, they're there for vehicle maintenance purposes. They're not stored there long-term, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure that was your question, I think.
And I know, and I don't want to interject here real quick, but I know at one point early on in the process, I know we talked about phyto remediation. Is that still on the table, or have we decided to go with a different option?
So we've been working with Jeff Scott, who's the remediation manager for the farmland site. And then there are several companies that we've talked with about phytoremediation option. The plants that we're using, the native species, there's about 22 acres of native grass that's going to be planted. And
and we're actually going to reduce the irrigation impact by planting that versus, turf grass or whatever else. The phytoremediation that we've talked with that company, they plant a lot of like poplars or willows. And we are looking at some of the areas along the railroad tracks, maybe to the north of the railroad tracks, as a potential site. There's a city-owned triangle property there that would be potentially a candidate for phytoremediation.
Okay.
But within the MSO campus site and then some of the areas a little bit further east, it's mainly going to be native grasses that also do have the deep roots that use nitrogen. So we are going to get some phytoremediation with that
Okay.
as well.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you very much. I think that's it on public comment. Any questions or comments? I think that's it. Andy, I think I have more questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. I'm not gonna ask it. I was just flashing back to one of the first things when I came onto the commission, where we did our different site visits, and when we visited the garage and the MSO campus, and just learning a lot and actually visibly seeing and physically seeing the constraints. And I know we've heard constraints a lot. I think we could have an MSO bingo sheet and all the things that we've tried to either remediate or at least solve or consolidate with this project. We've talked about those words. But I think constraint is is top of mind, and to see what city staff has to do in addition to their day-to-day work in the event because of certain constraints. And I know one that came in particular that I remember was that moving of the solid waste trucks in the event of flooding, and that they have to be taken over to North Lawrence, and that, whether that's raining at 4 o'clock in the morning or late at night, I mean, these are things that have to be done. And so, the adage of having to do more with less, we've utilized that so much to a point thinking that we're getting efficiency, but actually what we're doing is just creating burnout. And I can say that we've seen that burnout exist in different things, whether it's, continued costs for maintenance, for something that's not solving its real purpose, the loss of staff, potential for injury, all of those things as a commissioner I don't want to be responsible for. And to know that we've taken this process, which seems to be more than 10 years in the making, which is 10 years longer that should have been done 10 years ago. And I know we've talked about that, about asset management and deferred maintenance and all the things, but one of the things I don't want us to do is continue to force staff to do more with less, because we're reaching a boiling point. And so what I see with this project is a true investment that is going to allow it to scale. It's going to be able to allow for future growth and expansion, the things that you want to see for a project, for something that's being invested by the city. I know we've had community members kind of get fussy and titchy about incentives that we give to businesses. This is the ultimate incentive that we can give. And so I appreciate staff's work on this, doing the CM at risk, ensuring that we are staying on budget, on task. I have not been more excited about this project than I am today, and being able to vote on it. Don't ask me to do a groundbreaking in the cold again. I was not prepared for that in no way, shape, form, or fashion, but I'm glad that I was there, and I look forward to seeing this project come to fruition. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody want to add anything to this, or?
I would just, jump in and say I guess a couple thoughts. Obviously we've been looking at this since I've been on the commission, and back in 2020, I think we received our first report from DAC Wells, and they were estimating these two phases, the central maintenance garage and the solid waste, in the $45 to $55 million range. And in 2022, it was estimated at $52.1 million, and now it's at $57 million. Construction costs. To me, that's well within the range, especially given what happened between on construction costs between 2020 and today. Second, I'd say, I mean, I know when we first saw this and we saw the great need and understood the great need, as Commissioner Sellers was talking about, to see that the solid waste division wasn't going to be built till 2029, or almost 2030 in the original 5 stages, with the central maintenance garage being done a little earlier than that. And really, if you look at, I mean, we have needs all over the place, but the central maintenance garage was the one area that had all 4 categories. It was the worst in all, and it, for various reasons, it was being pushed towards the end. So, I was excited when we were able to move it up. The cost savings was part of that, but just getting the project done and getting our employees into those new structures, I think I was excited to, be able to vote on and save some money in that way. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, we are going to see that in the rates, and we see it in our geo bonds. But I think it's something we have to do, and I'm, like a lot of our infrastructure projects, infrastructure's expensive, but I think in the long run this will be great for the community, and this facility will long outlast the bonds that we were paying on. This facility will be there and being used long into the future. So I am too excited to support it and move this project forward. I will say to Scott that I hope you save some of that contingency money and you return some of that back to us, and maybe helps us out a little bit there at the end, as well as the owner contingency. I mean, there is some money there that hopefully we can recoup and use in other projects. So, but appreciate the project, the work, the team working on this, and excited to see it come to fruition.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a need. It definitely is. We've worked so hard on infrastructure for the past numerous years. This is kind of a culmination of a lot what we've been working on. We're going to get out of the floodplain. We're going to get out of the floodway. We're going to make a much safer working environment for our employees, and I think it just caps what we need. And this is a facilities that are definitely going to be utilized for 50, 60 years or more, and so it's time to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I don't really have much to add. I think everyone said it. I'm in favor of moving forward and excited to try to get this project accomplished and save as much money as possible by moving it faster instead of making it take longer and paying inflated construction costs. I think we've learned from our mistakes, not moving sooner, I think, in the past, and this was a good choice to try to jump on whatever savings we can on a very expensive project, so thank you. Is there a motion to consider this?
I move that we authorize the city manager to execute a guaranteed maximum price amendment number 1 to the construction management agreement with McGowan Gordon in the amount of $57,016,920 for the construction of the MSO campus Phase 2 project MS1-00023B.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Sellers, and that's a second by Finkeldye. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 4-0, and never say never is what I like to say. Someone will understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. If that's okay, we'll reconvene at 7:30. What time is it?
7:33.
7:35.
Perfect.
If you want to go ahead and start, I think, Commissioners, you all ready? We're a minute early, but I don't think anyone's going to care in the room. Please.
I'll take Mayor and Commission, Melissa Sieben. I'm glad to be back up here again tonight, Director of Municipal Services and Operations. Tonight, I also have with me Mike Lawless, our Deputy Director, who directly supervises our solid waste division here for MSO. And also online tonight, we have Philip Kramer and possibly Julie Davis with Burns and Mack, who are working closely with us on our solid waste master plan, as well as on our rate modeling and rate setting. So this year for solid waste, like we've done the last 2 rounds on water wastewater, we are going to be proposing a 3-year rate. So it'll be a little different than we've done in the past, which has been annual rates for solid waste. And we're going to also be sharing with you the work of the solid waste master plan to date. That was something that was a critical path for us, understanding sort of where we're heading in the future with our solid waste operations for the community, and obviously plays very directly into our sustainability goals for the community. Okay, I'm doing good here. So we have 2 key performance indicators that we are working on currently with our commitment champions. The first one is with our sustainability coordinator, Kathy Richardson, which is the pounds per day of solid waste generated. And then the other with our human resources department with the engaged and empowered teams, our satisfaction with our solid waste staff, which is something that's been near and dear to my heart since I started here, and obviously Mike's as well. So we will be talking tonight, integrating some of that information on those KPIs, but really a lot on that first one, which is the pounds per day. But we are also going to be, out of the solid waste master planning process, generating other performance indicators that you all will want to understand and engage in. And frankly, we're pretty excited because we're now getting into the phase of the community engagement component of the plan. That'll be happening over the next few months that we'll start into that. And it includes things like a community survey, but it also includes focus groups and some targeted conversations with different types of user categories of our solid waste services. So we are moving forward with that, and also at the same time working in coordination with our county partners on their plan that they're required to turn into the state of Kansas every 5 years. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our Deputy Director, Mike Lawless, and he is going to start highlighting our solid waste efforts from 2025.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Mike Lawless, Deputy Director for Municipal Services and Operations. And I'm going to jump right into some 2025 highlights for our solid waste division. As Melissa mentioned, we've started work on the solid waste master plan. We've been working on that since about January. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say at the moment. I have a few slides coming later in the presentation that will highlight some of the activities and tasks that we've done on that. But in addition, we also have done a considerable amount of equipment replacement as well as tank replacement. Over the last couple of years, we've heard feedback on the availability or lack thereof in some of our roll-off and tanks when we get into real peak seasons. And through the budget process in 2024 and 2025, we've made a concerted effort to invest in our tanks and roll-offs. And what that has allowed us to do, and it's put us in a much better position. It's allowed us to scrap some of the very old and really tanks that needed to go away and the roll-offs that needed to go away. So we've been able to replace those, and as well as increase the inventory we have. And so I think we've made a much better situation in that area. I don't think we're quite done, but we're in a much better position than we were 2 years ago. When we look at the actual equipment, there's in that lower right-hand side, you have pictures of a couple of new vehicles that we have purchased recently. And in 2025, we actually purchased 5 new vehicles. In addition to that, we've also done, over the last few years, alley rehab construction. This year, we've done 6 sites that are either completed or in the process of being completed. The picture in the lower left there is the 800 block alley between Mass and New Hampshire with the new pavement down, and it's in much better shape. One, for the people that have to go in and move those tanks around as they drive the alleys, but also the public that's moving from parking lots through the walkways out to Mass Street. So we think that's been a very good investment, both for our people as well as the public. A few other highlights that I'd like to bring up. We've really focused on recycling education this year. We've done some outreach to multifamily complexes. So this year we've reached out to over 8 complexes. And in that lower right-hand picture, you see one of the recycle bags that we've taken to those complexes to give the residents a way to put their recycling in the bag to get them out to the enclosures where they can dispose of it. In addition, and I think what I wanted to say with that also is, through those 8 complexes, we've given away or provided more than 2,300 bags. We've done we've done a reused cup that for water or whatever drink you want if you're in those apartment complexes. But it's a reusable cup, as well as a magnet that kind of has additional information on materials that can go in the recycling and materials that we don't want in our recycling. In addition to that, we've started some social media campaigns. And in the upper right-hand side, kind of the right side and the lower side is our campaign about Did You Know? And the idea of that was just to have a real quick blurb that we can get out on social media that says, hey, did you know this is how you can recycle this particular material? Or, hey, you can't recycle this, don't put it in our bin, but here's other ways to recycle that. So that was one of the campaigns that we started at the beginning of the year. Then we hit our spring audit at the Material Recovery Facility, or the MRF, and we had a contamination rate that was higher than we had wanted to see. And we did another campaign with that, basically saying, hey, here's what happened when we did our audit of the materials that are in our blue bins, and it came out higher than we wanted. And here's some things that, some topics or some talking points that we had out of that. And it generated a lot of media attention. We had multiple requests for interviews on that particular campaign. We had a lot of citizens comment and ask questions through social media, and that particular one was shared a lot through social media. And so our communication people were like, hey, that was one of the most talked about things that we put out in quite a while. So we felt like it was a success in terms of getting the word out. Now, did we change people's attitudes and how they think about what they put in their recycle bin? I don't know, but we'll find out here in about a month, because we'll have our fall 2025 audit, and we'll see if these educational campaigns that we've started have made a difference. So that's one of the things that we're kind of excited to see with the fall audit, and we have our fingers crossed that we'll get that contamination rate down from where it's been over the last few audits. In addition to that, we've also had staff out, and they've done GPS location of our trash enclosures for the commercial sites, and that map in the lower left-hand side is kind of a map of almost 1,800 different enclosure locations for our commercial and industrial tanks. And so now, as I mentioned earlier, kind of wanted to talk about some of the highlights of our master plan And really, we stated, our stated goal in the advertisement for this project was to reduce the amount of material that we sent to the landfill. We wanted a way to through this process, that we find different ways, different options to help us reduce the amount of material that we send. And so with that, we hired Burns & McDonnell to be our consultant to help lead us through this master plan. And I'm going to go through real quick some of the tasks that we have already undertaken as part of the master plan process. So we started out where we reviewed our code and the regulations around solid waste. We also looked at historical generations and diversion rates. And so that's kind of what that graphic is in this particular slide. So it's just looking at 2024 generation and diversion. So on the left side, you kind of see the split of the material that we collected between the roll-off program, our commercial, and our residential. And what it boils down to is we collected 94,500 tons of materials. And on the right circle chart there, what that shows is of that 94,500, 65,500 tons of that went to the landfill. But the remainder, the 31% that's remaining, which is almost 29,000 tons, was diverted either in the recycling that we collect, in the household hazardous waste, in our electronic recycling drive that we did, and then the yard waste that we pick up and take to the compost facility. So that just, basically what that does is that gives us a point of, here's the amount of waste we've generated historically, and that will help us produce what are we going to see, what do we think we'll see in the future if we don't change anything from where we're at today. The next task that we've undertaken with the master plan so far this year is a waste characterization analysis. Basically what we've done is we went out and we collected samples of trash and recycling from 48 different locations, and we brought that into our solid waste annex on the north end of town, and we sorted that into 41 different categories, material categories. So we brought in almost 6,500, just over 6,500 tons of trash and almost 1,100 tons, pounds. Sorry, my bad. I'm back on the previous slide. It's pounds of material, not tons. So it was 6,500 pounds of trash and almost 1,100 pounds of recycling. And then recycling came from the same locations that we collected trash from. So of those 48 samples, we did 33 samples of trash and 15 samples of recycling.
Mike, real quick, so that truck
Sure.
in the upper left, that's them picking up the samples?
Yes, so what we did was we would go out to the location. We had, on the truck you see behind there, we had empty bins that already had labels on them about what route we were on. So what we were looking for was between 150 and 200 pounds of trash. And so typically that was going to get between 3 and 5 household stops. What we did was we picked the route because we were looking for representative routes of the various locations around the city. And then Burns and Max said, here's where we're going to start. And then they didn't tell us that until we got out on route. They said, here's where we want to start. And then we picked every 5th residential house and said, we're going to collect until we reach that 150 to 200 pounds. And whatever recycling they had out at those locations, we collected as well. So if they didn't have anything out, we didn't collect. If they had 2 bins, we collected both recycle bins. So basically it was recycling and trash from the same locations. The lower left-hand picture is the actual company. It was called Economics out of California. They were a subcontractor for Burns & McDonnell. They came in and they sorted all of the samples that we had into those 41 different categories. And then that lower right-hand picture just shows the number of trash bins that we collected for those 48 samples. So what did, and again, some of this information is very new to us, so we're just now starting to look at it, but there's some really interesting information that we got from that. And right now what we're looking at is just the trash, the aggregate trash that we got. What kind of materials were in the trash? So 40% of the things that we pulled out of trash were organic materials. 19% was paper, 15% plastic, and then you see a myriad of other materials that came out of the trash. The next one is, well, what does that mean? What can we do with that? And how can we potentially get to that? We want to divert away from the landfill. So now we're kind of aggregating back all those materials on the previous slide, in that 40% of the material is potentially compostable. Another 36% is non-recyclable and non-compostable. And then what's, I don't know about surprising, but one of the things that we found is there's 19% of the material that's in our trash actually fits into our blue bins. It should go in our blue bins. So again, that kind of goes back to that whole education campaign of, hey, these are the things that we want you to put in your recycle bin. And there's another 19% that we could divert away from the landfill if we got all of those recyclables into the recycle bins. And then just the kind of the last one on that waste characterization. These are the top 10 weighted materials, the percent of weighted materials that we had in our sampling, in the waste sorting. So food waste was the top 2. Those were the top 2 categories we had. Unpackaged food waste, so it would be people that didn't eat all their leftovers or scraps that they had from cooking. But it's really surprising you see food waste that's packaged. It hadn't even been opened. It's either gone bad or people decided they didn't want it. But I mean, 32% of our waste is, in that sampling, was food. And I think, that just shows that we have, there's a way to get to that goal of diverting away from the landfill. And you can see the other top 10, it goes into, even the third one is low-grade fiber, which is potentially compostable as well. So you start adding that together, and that gives us real hope that we have a way to divert things away from the landfill.
Mike, for those top 5 of the aggregate, if we were to disaggregate that, is one more commercial than it is residential, or? Low-grade fiber, is that something that's going to be in a lot of residential trash, or is that mostly something we would see in commercial?
I don't know if I have that split. I'm sure it's in the materials. Again, it's fairly new information, and I just picked some real highlights to bring tonight. We will come back later on in the master plan and be able to provide you a lot more information than I have tonight. But tonight was just to kind of give you a preview of kind of what we're seeing in the tasks that we've started or just received information on.
I think it would really behoove the commission to really see that disaggregate, especially for these top 10. So
yes,
just so that we know the balance. But thank you.
Okay, thanks. One of the other tasks that we did was to do a current system review and needs assessment of our operations. And we kind of split that into single-family residential and commercial and multifamily. And you'll kind of see why here and when I kind of go through some of the talking points. But what I've got right now tonight is just some of the observations that we got back. We just received this the week before, but we've had it only about a week. And so getting ready for this presentation, we just haven't had a lot of time to digest all that, but that will come. But some of the big observations that we saw on single-family residential, there are sufficient resources, but we are constrained by household distribution in our routing. So some days we may have a few routes where maybe we could do a better job of distributing the households within the routes, and we may even have to look again at moving some from one day to another. But I think those are all things that we need to digest and look at a little further. We also have some collection efficiency areas where we could improve some of the equipment that we have. And we heard earlier, the CMG facility is constrained in terms of how many vehicles they can work on. Solid waste is really hard on our vehicles. And so some of the vehicles that were out that day weren't necessarily our automated side loaders, the ASL trucks. We have another truck that does ASL function, but it has a big hopper in the front, and you fill it from a little bit differently, and in order to tip it, it's a little bit slower. And so there were definitely some efficiencies that were noted when we used that piece of equipment. Another thing that came out of that was our bulky pickup efficiency. We could be way more efficient than we are today with the way we do bulk. We have an online work order system that we ask people to use. Some people do, a lot of people don't, and it's just as the trucks drive down, they call in and say, I have bulky waste that's not in the bins, or somebody set out a whole apartment out by the dumpster, and we need to come pick that up. And so I think those are some things and goals and strategies that we'll talk about later in the master plan of what do we want to do with bulky waste? How do we handle it? How do we do it more efficiently than we're doing it today? And I think those are things that we'll see. And as I mentioned, the observations with our CMG through this process, through the solid waste master plan, they came back and said that facility is undersized and understaffed for the amount of equipment that not only solid waste has, but the rest of the city has. And one of the ways that we see that is the ASL trucks, the automated side loaders. In the last 5 years, we've gone from an uptime efficiency on those of about 90%. We've slipped now to 80%, so that those vehicles are only available about 80% of the time. Today, we had 6 out of our 12 ASLs that were out of service. And so now we have to go back and say, we need a rear load to fill in on that ASL route. And that's more people. It's an additional 2 people on a route that we didn't have when we have the ASL. And so, I think those are things that were observations that we had, and again, we'll get goals and strategies on how to try to address that in a better way. And I think the phase 2 of the MSO campus will go a long way to helping solve that. Also, I think in the rates that we'll see tonight, we've included additional truck replacements as part of that, as part of the rates that we're seeing. On the commercial and multifamily side, we did have an ability, they think, to expand our capacity. We have additional capacity in that commercial multifamily side. But one of the issues that we will see if we look to do other services, other type of materials to move away from the landfill, is our enclosure size is going to limit how many tanks we can get in them. I think when a lot of those enclosures were built, we weren't necessarily thinking about, hey, what other types of materials might we collect besides trash? And that's something we're going to have to figure out as well. But in terms of uptime and repair costs on those services, we're actually looking pretty good. Kind of what's up next? What are we doing? Melissa hinted at that. We have some public engagement that we're working on right now, residential survey, a commercial focus group, and facilitated work group to talk about the different ideas and options that we've started looking at with our operations, and how to get more diversion out of the landfill. We're also looking at a compost facility feasibility study as part of the plan. In the lower left-hand side, you see the current compost facility pad, and it is extremely full for the amount of material that we are bringing to it. The piles are very, very tall, much taller than they ought to be, which lends to a not necessarily efficient operation to process that material. It takes a lot longer when those piles are bigger. And so this feasibility study will look at what size do we really need for the amount of material that we're bringing, and possibly where could we do that at. And then again, at the end, we'll be looking at other goals besides diversion, the strategies on how to accomplish that, and then we have a financial analysis to say, hey, if we want to do these other things, here's what we think we need in order to do that. And then here are just some highlights for 2026. What we think tonight, we approved, you all approved the MSO Phase 2 construction. So that will get started next year. As Melissa mentioned, we'll be coordinating with the county on their master plan. Last time I was up here talking about rates, I talked about smart truck implementation. That has not gone quite as smoothly as I hoped this year, but I do have a contract for another pilot that I hope to implement before the end of the year to try another technology. And again, I think that will help us with efficiency, routing, the number of stops that we have on our routes, and how to try to balance that out. In 2026, we also have additional alley rehab construction, although I will say the World Cup is probably going to throw a little bit of a wrinkle in some of that in terms of not having the alleys torn up downtown during that World Cup event. And so if we don't get all of the projects that we had planned for 26 done, we will move those to 27 along with any funding that was for that project. And then, as I mentioned, equipment and tank replacement. We'll have some tank replacement next year, but not to the extent that we have. And we have included an additional truck for a total of 7 in 2026. So after all that on kind of what we've done and where we're at and what we're planning, we're now ready to talk about the analysis that we've done on the rates. And basically, we're just going to start out here with this slide. You saw it last year, but these are the key variables that we look at and when we go into rates: equipment repairs and our maintenance, our personnel compensation and recruitment retention of our employees, the supplies and materials we have, whether that's fuel or parts to repair the vehicles, our vehicle replacement, the MSO Phase 2 campus debt services included in the rates, and then we have disposal fees at the landfill as well as the MRF, and those have escalators on them, and all of that is things that we've included in our analysis. So really, here's where we're at. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road for the 2026 through 2028 recommended rate increases. Annual rate increases on residential is about 5.5% for the 3 years. For commercial, we're looking at about 3% for the 3 years. Roll-off, 5.5%, and downtown, about 9.5%. In terms of the residential, I've included there each of the years the increase in our 65-gallon, our standard cart that we do service with. It would be $1.25 in 2026. It would go up by $1.25, $1.32 in 27, and $1.40 in 2028. In terms of the commercial and roll-off, it really varies by size, so it's kind of hard to give you any information on exactly how much it would increase. The next slide is our net revenue. So you can see in 26 through 28, we have a positive net revenue, so we're kind of building up that fund balance in anticipation of the debt service that we'll see in 2029 when we start paying for the campus. You can see that we have basically in those first 5 years, we are hitting our fund balance pretty heavily. And then in the last few years, we're starting to see where we've kind of recovered that. And really what we're doing is by using that fund balance, we're helping offset those rate increases from really spiking up to cover that debt service. And the next slide here kind of shows that unrestricted net position, or in my mind, it's the fund balance. So the fund balance goes up through 2028, and then you can see we hit it pretty hard starting in 2029 through 2033. When we get to those outer years, as we update our analysis in years to come, we'll start to tweak that. But basically, the orange line there is the fund balance that we're striving to maintain. And with that, I have our action steps tonight are to adopt the solid waste fee resolution 7633. And if that is adopted tonight, then the rates would become effective January 1 of 2026. And with that, I would stand for any questions, or if I forgot. Yeah, and if you have any detailed questions about the analysis, Philip Kramer is online from Burns & McDonald if I'm unable to answer.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mike or Phil?
Two kind of random questions. Didn't we implement for the roll-offs, a new online, sign up for it?
Yes, we have.
How did that go? How's that
Docket
work?
has been great. That's the software that billing is using, and it's kind of a process all by itself, but it has actually been very successful. We think it's helped us a lot keep track of the materials and where it's going, how much we're doing, and I think it's a lot smoother than the process that we had before, because it was in just a small database off to the side that we were hoping didn't fall apart before we found something that worked better.
I was hoping that worked. In the analysis, do we know how many people don't use the recycling carts at all? I'm always surprised when I'm out on my runs or whatever, how many households don't put a recycling cart out at all. Do we have a...
And I believe when we did the analysis for the waste characterization that we have a number for like the set out rate of recycling, and off the top of my head, I do not remember what that is, but yes, that was something that we collected. I don't know if Philip, if you have that number off the top of your head, if you remember that, or if Julie's available.
If you give me a minute or two, if anyone else has other questions, I can pull up what I observed when I was out visiting you all in Lawrence for the field observations. But just give me a minute on that and I'll get it to you.
Not a question. I'll say I did notice, I asked that question about the trucks earlier, because at one point I saw those and I was like, what are they doing? Are they stealing? It was like the weirdest thing when I saw them picking them up. So now I know what they were doing. They were collecting the data.
Yeah, collecting it so we could bring it back and sort it and figure out what's in it.
So for when I was in the field for your ASL residential recycling, that set out rate was actually 91%. And so for some comparison to other cities, you could be looking at anywhere from like 50 to 70%. So we were very, very pleasantly surprised actually to see the set out rate for y'all's customers. And then also, I was not involved in the waste characterization, but if we did get a set out rate from that exercise, I can just pull that information and get it over to Mike tomorrow.
Thank you.
Interesting. So that was 90% of residents who have recycling set that out?
Yes.
Okay, but it still doesn't tell us what percentage participate. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so just some clarification on that. So that was looking at basically we counted on the street. So if we pass a house and there's a cart set out, we marked it down. And then similarly, if we pass a house and there's no recycling out, we mark it down. So in that group of individuals that have not set out, that counts both people that have a cart but are not setting it out and those individuals that do not have a recycling cart. And then the first statistic I gave you was for the ASL residential collection routes, which was the 91%. For the rear load residential routes, that was actually 85%. And just to show you that those routes are happening in different parts of the cities. And so obviously you're going to see
different statistics where, depending on where you're observing those collections.
Makes sense. Any other questions?
Mike, just real quick, I know you had talked about efficiencies and in regards to like bulk waste, and so I was curious to know, I think I remember seeing this year, kind of the social media blasts or on for students and everyone moving out, and it was very, not that I can remember them now, but I remember seeing them on social media and seeing that we were hammering that home. Has there been better efficiency in that? Are we partnering more with different neighborhood associations or with the university to say, hey, you know, let's do some roll-offs and you can drop all of this stuff here or put all your recycle stuff? I mean, because I remember the days of dumpster diving as a student.
So
what does that look like for us?
So we do some of that with the apartment complexes where we'll take roll-offs for them. I think part of the master plan is going to come up with those strategies of how do we do a better job with handling our bulk. Do we continue to do it the way we do and just force people to sign up online and say, hey, I have something that you need to pick up and that's the only way we're going to do it? Or do we say, hey, we're going to do a citywide pickup on certain times of the year? You know, I think there's all kinds of different ways that we can look at that. And those kind of things we haven't really got to in the master plan yet.
And to piggyback on what Mike's saying, another component of it is looking at the partnerships like you were talking about with the University of Kansas. We started into something about a year ago on that. It didn't work or stick. Some students had been working on it. And I will say where Brandon's hanging out tonight, they have a pretty darn good methodology for repurposing, reusing stuff from apartments as students are moving in and out. And I think a lot of the other Big 12 universities have similar programs. And so those are things I'm hoping as Burns and Mac works through this with us that we can learn more about. And then we need to get with our university partners to really knock through those and make it happen. So
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? I think we're good, Mike.
All right. Thanks very much for your time.
Is there public comment on this item?
Lou Wilson, 66044. I just wanted to ask two questions. One about your recycling education. I don't know if it's been enough time to be able to answer this question or not. Whether or not, since you started doing the education within the apartments or online, if you have seen an increase in recycling pickup. And then the other question I had about I know you said that when you were doing your waste, like picking up the samples, that you went all over town. And I'm just wondering if when you did the recycling, kind of seeing like the percentage of people who were recycling, if you also went around town or if those were in certain areas or how you guys went about that one too.
Okay, thank you. We'll get those questions answered. Any other questions? Sure.
As far as the bulk item pickups, I was wondering if there is some sort of program when items are in good conditions, like that one photo they showed where it was an entire apartment. I know there's a lot of people in need in this community, so is there a way that if items are in good condition, we can get them to say Willow or other the homeless shelters, if there's a program for that. And then for the organic items that were getting thrown in the trash. I have a yard waste cart, but I know that's, you can't put food waste in there. Do we have some sort of or could we have a program for food waste disposal through the city? Because I have it in my backyard, but a lot of people don't. And then I was also had a question about the rates. I know rates are increasing. My utility bill is water and solid waste combined, so it's kind of hard to fully break that down. But I know rates have been consistently going up for about the past 8 years. And just personally, as a single mom,
my utility bill is one of my highest bills. I think my energy bill is the only one higher. So it's becoming difficult to keep up with those rate increases. And I don't know if that comes from the solid waste or the water more so. But I saw the campus that's being proposed was part of the rate increases. I'm wondering why that's being shouldered by the citizens, and maybe funding can't come from some other place for that, because obviously it's a need, it's a big need. But it's just the burden is becoming pretty heavy. So those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. I don't think there's anybody else in here. Anybody online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll just want to come back to some of these questions, if you can remember them all, but I think they're all pretty straightforward. Mike, why don't you go ahead and answer those for me?
You want to start with I'm not sure I got all of them written down. I think I started writing it, the food waste disposal. And I think that's certainly one of the things that we'll be looking at. Right now, the yard waste is just yard waste in the brown carts. One of the things that we will be looking at through the master plan is some sort of food waste or composting, whether that be a drop-off location or curbside collection. I don't know, but I think those are certainly things that we will be looking at with the master plan. In terms of the utility bill, our utility bill is not just water and solid waste, but it's water, sewer, solid waste, as well as stormwater. So it's 4 different utilities that are on that utility bill. The solid waste for the standard size 65-gallon cart is going to, sorry, I had that, is going to, in 2026, will be $24 and a penny, and that includes trash, recycling, and the bulky pickup.
There was a question about the program for items that are in good shape.
Reusing,
Okay.
recycling.
And I'll step into that one. So that is, again, a really good question, because a lot of that stuff can be reused, as stated by the individual that was just up here commenting. And what we're hoping for, again, out of the study is that we get some really good concepts about how we can coordinate what's left over from people moving out into houses that need it, and what is actually good, viable, say, furniture or electronics isn't ending up in the landfill. That's probably one of the hardest things I see here every spring and summer. So,
And then also the bulk, let's see, bulk waste reuse program, right? Educational program, whether or not you got any response or could see any.
I was going to say, I think we'll find out in about a month.
Okay.
When we do the fall audit, whether or not that has been successful, and or maybe how we need to direct or change that narrative based on what we see in the contamination through that audit.
and I would also say in that space as well, through the focus groups, the surveying that we're going to do, hopefully there's some more maybe targeted information that Burns and Mack can provide us on how to reach people. So we're trying one method, but there may be others. We're also trying the method of bringing bags out to our multifamily residential units with some, little swag, trying to get people excited about it. We need to really start to understand our population and who's participating well, who's not participating, why, and that's some of the stuff that's going to start to come out of the study. So.
And then lastly, just how do our rates compare? I mean, just in general, is it industry standard for these rates to change annually, and what is the typical annual increase change in this world of solid waste?
Philip, I don't know if you can help on that one, if you have any insight.
I think there was a hidden slide on the presentation that benchmarked that rate of that you were describing, Mike. So if that's accessible, that can be shown. But $24 is a pretty comparable rate to what we're seeing in other cities. The other thing to consider with rate increases for solid waste. So as many of you guys are aware, we've talked about CPI increases throughout tonight's presentation and how that's affected costs for construction and so on. When we think about the increases to solid waste costs, there's actually another index that's kind of best practice for tracking the increases in cost with regards to the solid waste industry. So that's the CPIU Garbage and Trash Index. And that's, historically has always increased at a rate that's faster than traditional CPI. And so when you're seeing these increased costs for solid waste, a lot of that is driven by that CPIU for garbage and trash. And so that increase of 1%, or $1 in some change, is pretty standard. And we do, at Burns and Mac, we always think it's kind of best practice to, constantly adjust and modify, because what can happen, and kind of the danger that happened to some other cities, and then they got hit by COVID, was they kind of held their rates constant for a long period of time. And when you do that, you have these immediate shocks to price, and that can really put solid waste departments in the hole, and it's probably the case across many municipal operations. And so it's traditionally best practice to just evaluate on a year-to-year basis and see where tweaks need to be made.
Okay, thanks.
And so I did get the graphic there. And this is actually a 95-gallon cart, not a 65-gallon cart, but the source is the Olathe. They had put this information together. And so we just inserted our 2026 rate into their information.
Okay. So it feels like we're in the right range.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
Say just a couple things real quick. One, I really appreciate the alley rehab program. I think that's done a lot. I mean, being someone who works downtown, it's made a big difference. And like you said, not just obviously for the purpose of solid waste, but for the people who work and go downtown, I think it's made a huge difference. I am excited, to hear more about the plan and where we're going. I do think composting food waste. We have a thing we use at home. It's called the mill. Not everyone could, probably can afford that sort of thing, but it's a electric composter, and we barely have any trash. 60% we can compost everything in that, and it's and again, I'm sure our program won't be as robust, but I think being able to get into that will make a big difference. I am excited about the bulk things. I've seen other cities where they pick a couple days, kind of like we do with electronic cycling, and say, everyone set out your whatever, and then people can drive around and pick up stuff, and nonprofits can go around and pick up stuff, and then the next day they actually come and pick it all up, as opposed to the, trying to remember to, put out, use the form and stuff. I think having a couple set days that we make that work will make that much more efficient. But anyway, that's my guess, but obviously Burns and Mac and others probably have better ideas than that. But I'd be interested in that. I would say two things on the rates. One, I do hope one day as we continue to move to more automation, that we do see, maybe some leveling off as we replace. You don't have as many employees, you don't have as many increases, that you see some replacement there. I know we're ways off of that, but I do hope to see that one day. And the other part I'd say, obviously rates have been going up and they're expensive, but I do like to remind folks that people who don't pay property taxes, entities that don't pay property taxes, do pay this. Churches, for example, don't pay property tax, but they pay to have us pick up their trash. And so, the school district pays for us to pick up their trash, but they don't pay the property taxes to us. And so by having some of these costs in the utility bill, we actually get more people paying for it than if we just left it in the property tax. Well, some people don't pay evenly. And so I think that's an important thing to remember when we talk about, these fees.
Yeah, makes sense.
I may have a question, but I'm not quite ready.
Yeah, I just would, the one slide that intrigued me was the net revenue slide. And that showed how we start to take a pretty big hit right after you get the MSO campus going, because we're paying those bond payments. But yet it also shows by in the 2030, mid 2030s, we're coming up out of that because those bonds are being taken care of. And so that was enlightening for me, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation, Mike. I do look forward to hearing more about the master plan, especially disaggregating as far as what the collection and what those kind of bulk items are as it relates from the residential and the commercial aspect of that. I echo the sentiments that were brought up as I shared about, moving towards a stronger partnership and getting movement with bulk. I think this is a timely, it's very timely for us to revisit that with KU. With all the things that we have been negotiating with them. This is a great time to say, hey, good faith partners, let's step this up and let's get something more concrete, because this is a major part of what we can divert from the landfills is from the students and student housing areas, and also encouraging our neighborhood associations to do that work. I know my mom's neighborhood association twice a year does a neighborhood cleanup where they roll off the big bins and they're out there and they have folks come out and pick up the electronics and the bulk items. So there is value in that, and it helps to build that community engagement as well. So we definitely need that. I am a beneficiary of the apartment recycling bag, so I do use mine faithfully. Maybe I need a bigger one, or I may need a second one, because it fills up very quickly, and it's a nice little walk to the area. And so I think it's been a great program, and I know that our apartment complex seems to be engaging in it fully. And I know as we go through these conversations about the rate increase, it's kind of a titchy point, and I think as we continue to have those conversations with the community about infrastructure and the relationship to it and costs, and how do we get to a point where we're not, if there is an increase, it's not as drastic. And I know when we initially had these conversations, I think we were like in the 5s and 6s and 7s. I think at one point, for water, it was like 10%. So, we encourage staff to look and see if there's other ways that we can decrease that, and you all have. But it's just, I know that you all are doing the due diligence on this, and that we're not just increasing rates to increase it, utilizing that to put money back in debt services so that we can pay for the campus, because property taxes alone don't allow us to use just that money for a campus, and so, for an MSO campus, or even some of our basic infrastructure needs. So, I think as we continue to go through this and educate the community on, revenue bonds, our debt services, and things of that nature, hopefully we can come to, a better understanding. I don't know if we'll ever get to an agreement, but hopefully a better understanding about what rates mean as far as to services and infrastructure. Because I think there's not too many municipalities that are not going through this right now, and I get it. So my rates increased, I think, an additional $10 this year. So I'm doing the math as well, trying to make sure no one's trying to get over on me. But it does get it increased to $85, and I know people are like clutching their pearls, like that's all. But when you live in an apartment, the numbers start to add up. So, but thank you for this, and I think we're moving in a good direction, so thank you.
Yeah, good presentation. Echo everyone's sentiment. They've said it all. I'm going to just ask kindly that we seriously consider continuing to educate our population. I'm really proud of our recycling rates, and I think if we can try to defer items going to landfill, we should do so, and that food waste and/or disposal cost is really high from a weight perspective, and then just from a landfill disposal cost. So if we could, that might be our next goal of reducing our costs overall, of actually keeping our costs, maintaining our costs, is by reducing what it costs to dispose of things.
To that point, with the stadium, what is KU Athletics doing as it relates to food waste, recycling? Yeah, let's find that out. That's all.
Okay.
I don't have the answer to that now, but we'll
Yeah.
work on that.
With all
Yeah.
the new bells and whistles and that beautiful field level club, I'd like to know what they're doing with their food waste and all the cups and all the things that are at a stadium that should be recycled that typically aren't.
So I think we've got our handle on our rates. I think we're doing our best we can. I know people are shocked by everything going up, and it just seems to be going everywhere, and I apologize for this, but I think we're doing a good job with the costs and providing a great service and a highest satisfaction rate we can get. So thank you for that. All right, so in this point, we're going to consider adopting on first reading Resolution 7633 to approve 2026, 2027, and 2028 solid waste rates.
And Mayor, that's a bit of a typo. It's a resolution, so we're just adopting the resolution. We don't do two readings of those.
So we're adopting on first reading.
No, just adopting.
There's no second reading, we just adopt it.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to be clear that folks are aware that.
There's no second
This
reading.
isn't coming back on consent or
And if we
anything.
say adopt on first reading, I'm concerned folks would be,
I see. So
Confused.
adopt, period.
yes.
Resolution 7633.
Yes, and I apologize for not catching that before.
All right, is there a motion for that?
Move to adopt Resolution 7633 to approve the 2026, 2027, 2028 solid waste rates.
Okay.
Second.
It's a motion by Finkeldye and a seconded by Larson. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes 4-0. And our last item is to receive stormwater rate presentation and consider adopting. Is this going to be a first reading?
This is actually an ordinance.
Okay, good deal. On first reading, ordinance number 10167 to establish 2026 rates by amending Lawrence City Code, Chapter 16, Article 5, Sections 16501, 502, 504, 505, 506, and 507.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm back again to tee up yet another fun conversation for this evening. Tonight, we're excited to be here with our Assistant Directors, Trevor Flynn and Melinda Harger, as well as online, I believe, we have Charlie Myers from our GIS division, and possibly still, but she may be under the weather, Christy Webb, as well as from our utility billing division, as well as Raf Tellis, our outside consultants that work with us on rates, which would include Colin Dratt and Keith Reading. So this is a big presentation also, so I apologize, but we're going to get through this together tonight. We're here to present to you for your consideration a pretty significant modernization of our stormwater rate methodology. The structure that we have had in place has been there since the 90s, and at that time, we were kind of on the cutting edge. So just to help you all understand where we were at then. We are looking to provide as many details as we can about how we're looking to change or address the structure. And Municipal Services and Operations has been working with Raf Tellis on updating this for the past couple of years. So this is accumulation of work over several years. We are pleased to present these changes and the approach to what started in the 90s. And at this time, I just want to kind of recognize that we were ahead in the 90s, and we're going to get back there through this work. And the key here is to remediate stormwater concerns in the community and to ensure protection against flooding and extreme weather events that we have observed over the last number of years. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this now over to Trevor Flynn.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for the introduction there, Melissa. She kind of covered this in her opening, but this was kind of the layout we're doing tonight with the rate setting structure. And we're going to get into the stormwater system and project highlights, what the stormwater system funds. And then we'll get into the rates and then actually touch on a rate impact analysis to see how the new structure impacts and the new rates kind of impact everybody. So we'll get into the purpose, and Melissa touched on this. The purpose, the proposed changes to the rate setting structure centers around accurately accounting for all impervious surface through the use of geographic information systems and technology. Impervious area means the portion of developed property which contain hard surface areas which either prevent or retard the entry of water into the soil mantle. These surfaces include but are not limited to asphalt, concrete, rooftops, compacted gravel surface built for vehicle travel or parking, and stormwater is billed based on equivalent residential units. This is based on the average impervious area of single-family residential properties. So how do we build single-family residential today? That's where we'll kind of touch on that, and then we'll touch on the new approach. The current ERU is 2,300 square feet of impervious area in our current code. However, the rate charge for this category is based on a tiered approach by the size of the building footprint for any structure on the parcel. Their current tiers were sized to assume there was some pavement with each parcel, since the one ERU tier in the table there is actually sized less than the 2,366 square feet. And as we look at modernizing this, back when we did the original code, we didn't have that GIS technology. We didn't have those aerial images. And so now that we have that, all the impervious area could be included in the system charge. As part of this, we had to update the base size of the ERU, which was calculated by measuring the impervious area of all single-family residential parcels and taking the median value, reflecting an updated ERU size equaling 2,800 impervious square feet. The tiers were updated to ensure that one ERU had the majority of the accounts with a good distribution between the tiers. The tiered approach is still best practice. Not only keeps billing much simpler, but it also allows for a little bit of conservative factor if someone adds a little patio or something. We don't need to remeasure our aerial imagery that frequently. So there's a little buffer there, because that is a major effort for our GIS team to go in and remeasure everything. This billing category definition was also expanded to include duplexes and triplexes based on the similarity of the parcel size in the billing service address, and a lot of that was for the aerial assessment, so to speak. And you'll also note at the bottom of this slide that any property that has more than 10,000 square feet of impervious area or less than 400 square feet of impervious area are excluded from this category. So this slide shows us a visual of the differences for the percent of the accounts in each billing tier, and you'll see the improved distribution of the accounts as with the new tiers. You also notice under how we bill it today, the majority of the accounts are in the 1.25 ERU tier, and then as I mentioned with the new system, it's in 1.0. So now we'll take a look at some examples of how some of the properties were measured and how that might change the ERUs of different properties. In this example, the top figure shows just the building footprint, and the bottom reflects all of the measured impervious area. This building footprint under the current approach has the most common billing tier with an assigned ERU of 1.25. But with the new approach, it is reduced to 0.8 ERUs because it does not have all that much additional impervious area
outside of that building, or the building footprint there. This property has a large building footprint under our current approach, and it's placed in a similar category under the method we are proposing with a larger amount of impervious area, where it's a slight decrease from the 1.8 ERU to the 1.7 ERU tier. Here we see another property that has a building footprint that was in the 1.25 ERU tier, and with the larger paved areas in the front and back, this one goes actually up quite a bit to 1.7 with the new approach. This slide is showing two examples that are probably our most frequent examples that reflected some of the more common changes we found for those accounts that decreased between the tiers. Again, you see that 1.25 where they're at today, which is that largest number of accounts, to either the 1.0 for the one on the left and 0.8 on the one on the right. So now let's move into how the changes to how we build master meter or multi-meter residential, essentially the multi-meter parcels. The current approach we have been using uses a default multiplier for the ERU based on the size of each living unit. And to calculate the total number of ERUs for a property, we first take the building footprint size divided by the total number of living units and add up the assigned ERUs for each of those living units. And then this approach does not account for parking or pavement, and does not account for the height of a structure. So the proposed changes for this, the current master meter and multimeter, is to streamline it and consolidate it with our non-residential category. It's much simpler, and it mirrors how we currently bill non-residential category. The billing category now picks up everything that is not defined as single-family residential, basically. And this is because we actually can measure the actual impervious area of these properties. The respective charge is based on the actual ERU, as I mentioned, as measured for each property, which is based on the ERU rate times the square footage of all impervious property divided by 2,800 square feet. And let's look at some examples of how this changes for some of these accounts. Here's an example where we have a taller multi-unit structure with several living units. And under the old approach, or today's approach, using the default multiplier and building footprint, this property measures 28.4 ERUs. And with the new approach, the actual impervious area only measures 12.3 ERUs. And again, this is where you see like how the height's not considered in that calculation today. In this example, you'll notice an ERU increase between the approaches due to the parking and private pavement being accurately measured, where it's going from 25.5 to 31.3 billable ERUs for the total property. Here's an example of a single parcel with numerous structures on a private road. Again, we see a slight increase in the number of ERUs from the old approach. Here's a larger property that has both multi-level structures that are on master meters and standalone units with multiple meters. This complex has lots of impervious area as reflected with the larger ERU increase with the new approach. Now we will transition to rates and stormwater utility funds, but I want to pause to see if there's any questions with some of that. Okay, we'll just keep rolling then.
Thank you. I get, just a question on, so some of these complexes are going to see either a big decrease or a big increase. I mean, according to some of those examples, will we be notifying if this takes effect January 1st? I mean,
yes.
Will they know beforehand or
yeah, so that's part of the, is when we get to the end, part of it's that we're going to do some outreach, and okay. There's going to be, and Christy is used to, she has methodology that they've used if they have accounts that are triggered to increase so much where they do targeted outreach and stuff. So yes, that's
the outreach and the education portion is definitely part of the plan.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get into the, our stormwater is often forgotten until it rains, particularly if you've ever been impacted by a heavy rainfall event. And this is, and I'll just go over these real quick, because these numbers, as with our asset management programs, continually go up every time I update these numbers, especially with our structures. And we have 8,300 structures, which includes our inlets and outlets and various other stormwater infrastructure. 108 miles of open channel, 191 miles of storm pipe, 4 pump stations, and 19 miles of levees that we maintain. As with all our assets, stormwater infrastructure requires inspections, maintenance, repairs, and replacement programs. And so now I'll turn it over to Melinda to discuss some of our recent and upcoming stormwater projects.
Thank you, Trevor. I'll start with an update on our stormwater funded projects in the 2025 CIP. So Jayhawk Watershed and Maple Lane started construction this year. Our asset ID modeling project was, it's in its 4th of 5 years. It was created with the primary purpose of gathering asset information, determining if the projects in the 1996 master plan are still those highest areas of concern, and seeing how to best prioritize our limited CIP and O&M funds. I'll go into more detail on those projects in the following slides. The 2025 CIP also funded our annual stormwater rehab program. This year we started design on a variety of projects, and those will be constructed in 2026. The 2025 CIP also contributed stormwater funds to MSO Campus Phase 1. So in March of 2025, we began construction on the Jayhawk Watershed project located just west of downtown. This is a much-needed infrastructure upgrade. The existing system included a stone culvert built in 1911. It's severely undersized, currently offers less than a 2-year level of service, meaning there's a 50% chance that any significant storm could overwhelm the system and cause localized flooding, which we would often, get a lot of calls. So we're looking forward to this project being complete and decreasing that number. The middle reach phase of this project focuses on replacing that old culvert with a new reinforced concrete box that runs just north of 8th and Tennessee, to 9th and Mississippi, passing through Old West Lawrence, and then along 9th Street, a portion of 9th Street. This new 20-foot deep stormwater tunnel will reduce flood risk, protect nearby homes and businesses. As we do with many of our projects, we're using the corridor approach on this project, combining stormwater improvements with other upgrades to maximize efficiency and minimize future disruptions. This project reflects the city's commitment to resilient infrastructure, efficient project delivery, and meeting the long-term needs of our community. So to provide an update on the current status of the project, the storm tunnel has been installed through the 8th and Tennessee intersection. That work has been slow and tedious due to the large number of utilities in the area. Overall, construction admittedly is slightly behind schedule. However, the contractor is planning to bring in additional crews soon. As the main tunnel intersection progresses west along 8th Street, there is more space to work, so they feel it can bring in multiple crews. The project is anticipated to be complete by that first quarter of 2027, but we are looking ahead to the Jayhawk Watershed upper reach with the recent Gateway MOU and looking at, coordination with KU, also understanding the impacts of World Cup and how can we coordinate the completion of this project along with the design of continuing up Mississippi and into the upper reach of Jayhawk Watershed. The Maple Lane Storm Sanitary and Water Main Improvements Project focuses on critical infrastructure upgrades. This was identified as project number 34 in the 1996 Stormwater Master Plan, and that focused heavily on the storm sewer improvements, and it was later included in the CIP as a storm project. However, the project scope did expand as we, again, applied the corridor approach, addressing not just stormwater, but a full range of infrastructure needs to maximize long-term efficiency and minimize future disruptions to the neighborhood. Storm sewer improvements remain a core part of the project, addressing longstanding drainage deficiencies. Sanitary sewer capacity upgrades are being completed to resolve frequent backups in nearby homes and eliminate sanitary sewer overflows that have occurred near 19th and
clear during heavy rain events. We are replacing also a 16-inch water transmission main along 19th Street between Maple Lane and Harper Street, and an 8-inch water main along Maple Lane from 19th to Edgewood Park. The project includes pedestrian, transit, and traffic calming improvements and pavement maintenance along 19th Street between Harper and Maple Lane. We're making steady progress on underground utility work while trying to minimize the disruption. When complete, this project will not only improve drainage and utility reliability, but will enhance safety, mobility, and overall neighborhood quality of life. As for current status, work on Maple Lane north of 19th Street to Edgewood Park is substantially completed. The contractor's ahead of schedule with utilities on 19th Street. The project is scheduled to be complete by fall of next year. So the Stormwater System ID Assessment and Model Creation Project was developed in 2021 in the 21 CIP. It's transforming how we understand and manage our stormwater infrastructure. It delivers critical, detailed information about the city's stormwater system, improving the accuracy of our GIS data and enhancing it with interactive 360-degree imagery, 3D structure models, and video documentation of pipe conditions. We have done presentations in the past kind of showcasing some of that technology. Using the latest hydraulic modeling technology and high-quality input data, the project produces robust data-driven models. These models give us powerful tools for decision-making, helping us prioritize maintenance of aging infrastructure like the corroding corrugated pipes, and enabling us to right-size future replacements and investments. Importantly, the project identifies a broad set of stormwater improvement needs, each evaluated with a benefit-cost analysis. While many of these improvements exceed what can be funded in our current 5-year CIP, the project does give us a clear prioritized roadmap for addressing these improvements over time. We're now in the 4th and final phase of the project, which will conclude in the middle of next year. This final phase includes completing the hydraulic modeling, estimating the project costs, prioritizing our CIP, and preparing a comprehensive report. And ultimately, that report will replace our 1996 master plan. And so here in 2026, some highlights that we wanted to share. Jayhawk Watershed will be close to wrapping up construction for the middle reach. We will have completion of Maple Lane by the fall. We will wrap up our asset ID project. And then here I identify some of the projects that we had started design on this year with our rehab program. Holcomb flood mitigation is starting now. That is a storm improvement across 27th Street, just west of Iowa. 24th Street storm sewer replacement. We had our bid opening last week. That will be coming to you for award of construction first meeting in November. And then we're underway with property acquisition conversations and design on Lawrence Avenue channel improvements and Wilshire Drive storm sewer improvements. And now I will turn it over to Colin.
Sure, thank you. Colin Dratt with Raftellus. Just to go over briefly some of the factors that contribute to the direction of stormwater rates, and sort of a similar discussion to what you heard on solid waste and even water sewer in the previous meeting. But really, there's a few drivers, and it's sort of almost evenly split between operating and capital. There's the cost to operate the system, whether it's repairs and maintenance or replacement of equipment, the cost of the folks that maintain the system and keep it in good working condition. And the primary driver, or the big driver, is really those capital improvement projects that Melinda highlighted earlier. And ensuring that we have sufficient funding for those. So really, like the other utilities, the trajectory of the rates is really going to be almost an outcome of the trajectory of the cost of providing service. So really, we're just trying to ensure that we're matching the funding of providing the service, aligning that with the cost of providing the service, whether it's operation and maintenance costs, or capital costs. And then another issue, of course, is regulatory compliance. So there's
certainly things that we'll need to do to make sure that we maintain compliance with our MS4 permit and issues with levies as well. And just overall, what we're trying to do is just ensure that we really stay on track, because all of the sort of inflation-related factors that impact everyone at home and at the store, those same drivers kind of impact the cost of providing utility service. So we're really just trying to make sure that we're adjusting revenues sort of on a regular basis to ensure that we keep up with our costs. So this graph is just a visual representation of what I just mentioned. It's a projection of our operating costs, as well as capital financing over time, whether it's existing debt for projects we've already completed or additional debt for new projects. And then, of course, we also have a good mix of cash funding in there, shown in the yellow. And the green line really just represents what our revenues would be if we didn't make any adjustments to the rates. And really what we're looking to do is make sure that we align the revenue with the costs over time. So there may be years where costs exceed revenues, and those would be years where, similar to the solid waste discussion, where we're using up some existing fund balance to do some smoothing. But the name of the game is to provide the funding for the service and to do so in as smooth and consistent of a manner as possible in terms of rate adjustments. So we are looking to try to keep that somewhat even across the years as we update the plan each year. We'll go to the next slide. Just in terms of recommendations, you heard Trevor mention a lot on the restructuring. That was really the focus of the analysis. We did sort of adjust that structure to ensure that we're generating the level of revenue that we need to provide the service in 2026. So that is sort of the foundation. But within that, there are a lot of changes really to modernize the structure, to recognize the available data that we now have in order to charge customers equitably for the service, which is really tied to impervious area. So just in terms of a recommendation, it is a 6% adjustment to the cost per square foot. And you can see that there. And then that new cost per ERU is 1071, but you do have to keep in mind that the ERU itself is also larger. It was 2366 before. It does fund the 2026 stormwater budget and CIP, and will result in the additional revenue that we need for 2026. In terms of the impacts, I'm going to let Trevor really dive into those. It will be different depending on the types of customers, but we do have a lot of breakdowns of that.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, as part of all the changes, we had to spend some time understanding the impact of the changes to our methodology and rates on our ratepayers. What we found with the residential is 24% of the accounts will actually have a lower bill in 2026. 38% will have a bill that looks similar to this year, and 38% of the accounts show an increase. Again, the primary driver of these changes is that new rate structure with the new tiers. For all the accounts we looked at in our analysis, we looked at the three categories from that pie chart. Those that had the decrease, those that stayed about the same, and those with the increase. For those that have a bill decrease, their bill will be about $2 to $2.50 less, looking at average and median change of the data set. And the changes to the billing tier shows us that for those that had a decrease, the majority of these accounts are going from the 1 ERU category in the today's approach to the 0.6 ERU category for the proposed tiers. For the accounts that stay about the same, there's a 3 to 4 cents difference. And this is the difference between those that are in the most common tier, that 1.25 tier. And now they're going to be paying the 1.0 tier. So they're going from $10.68 to a $10.71 bill. That's kind of what that data set's reflecting. For the accounts that are seeing an increase, the change will result in an approximate increase of $2.70 to $3.60, looking at that average and median change.
And these accounts see the largest number of properties being billed at 1.25 ERUs under both the old and new method. So that's kind of the same rate as the 1.25 for the new one as the old one. Now let's look at the non-residential change. For a non-residential billing category, we broke the data into 3 categories: accounts that will see a bill decrease, accounts that will see an increase less than 6%, and finally, those accounts that will see an increase of greater than 6%. As you'll see, 34% will see a decrease, 30% will see a increase of less than 6%, and 36% of the accounts will see an increase greater than 6%. Looking at the data for these accounts, there's a wide variability between the size of these properties, which is directly related to the gap between the average and median charges. Shown here. I like to focus on the median, as this is showing us at least 50% of the data set is at that charge or less. For those accounts receiving a bill decrease, the median change is a reduction of about $3.50 in their bill. The accounts that are seeing a bill increase of less than 6% reflect more of the traditional commercial type properties that were already in the non-residential category, where we were actually already charging the actual ERUs under today's non-residential billing category. And the median increase for this group is $3.41 for an increase. And for the accounts that have a greater than 6% increase, the median increase is about $12.82. Another way to look at this, these accounts is the box and whisker chart. The box represents the middle 50% of the data, and the lines show the min and max excluding the outliers. Since the new rate structure drives a lot of the changes, the box on the right might be slightly less, but actually it would look very much the same if we actually didn't even change the rate per square foot, because that rate structure, by measuring those actual impervious areas, is what's driving the changes for most of these accounts. The final component with this ordinance before you tonight is the opportunity to receive a stormwater system adjustment up to 50% of the stormwater system charge for properties which meet certain drainage standards and requirements associated with the construction and maintenance of approved best management practice that reduce and manage stormwater runoff. And getting back to your original question, Commissioner Finkeldye, you know, this is a large part of what a lot of those properties would be eligible to apply for, as a lot of the large developments like that have to have stormwater structures, whether they're basins, retentions, that type of thing. So the actions and next steps is adopt the stormwater ordinance 10167, and then as I mentioned earlier in that next steps is we are going to have a public-facing map where everyone can go to their parcel and see what areas were measured, because we do have an appeal process lined out, and we, you know, as much as we try to be completely accurate, I'm sure people will notice, you know, maybe they had a kiddie pool upside down drying out when something flew over, and maybe it got mistaken for a piece of concrete, you know, something like that. But also work on that outreach, those accounts that would go up, and then work on that, and also advertise how to do the stormwater credit type thing. So we have Keith Redding with Ruff Tellis online, and he did a lot of the work on these rate changes, or on the rate structure changes for the modernization process. And I don't know if he wants to add anything, or if anything, he will help with any questions as well. And
any questions? Sorry.
I guess I do want to know a little bit. Can you talk a little bit more about the stormwater credit?
Sure. So that the credit is the ordinance, it changed the language. So the current code language that's in, if you look it up today, is very specific to detention and retention. So now it's referring to the requirements that basically, when you look at the new land development code, when you look at the new stormwater criteria, there's a lot more options for different green infrastructure. That was all about 100-year flood stuff. And we realized that, you know, it's somewhat outdated in itself, because we're looking for a variety of B&P structures. We're going to look at a tiered system of credits. So it reads up to 50%, and so it's getting written right now. It's going to be called the stormwater credit criteria, and it's going to be designed for if people are doing industry standard, they're going to get the full 50%. And then if people are still doing some of the smaller best management practices, they still can be rewarded for that. So we know a property can't reduce their stormwater necessarily to zero. And we know some BMPs are, may reduce their stormwater 25%. So sometimes going with 50% was a good number, but we also realized we have much more data on some of those best management practice. And some of those approaches will get, I guess the options will be more clear as we get into our 26 stormwater criteria, because that's where they're going to go into the APWA, and the Mid-American regional criterias are going to get pulled into a lot of that.
So some of these non-residential units, basically they already are doing the best practice. They just have to fill out the paperwork and they get their 50%. Others would say, you would look at it and say, you're not doing your best practice, make these changes to get your 50%?
Yeah, so if it's a new development, it'll be much different, because they'll have to go through land development code and actually go through their, and those are the ones that there's no reason for them not to go for the credit, because they're going to have to go through the maintenance agreements. Those that are existing and have these structures, it's going to be a matter of getting them back into shape. Some of them need a lot of maintenance already, and so they need to comply with the maintenance. So it's kind of get the maintenance agreement, because if they're not operating design, there's no reason to give them credit. And so that's a part of it. And so there's a lot of, I think it's, 360 active best management practices, or BMP structures within Lawrence. And several are city-owned, and a lot of them are overgrown with trees and have silted in. And we do have a post-construction BMP program as part of our MS4 permit program, and they actually do go around and issue, kind of notices for people to do the necessary maintenance on them, because it's in code to have those maintained.
That actually seems like a very interesting part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good,
Process, which I did focus on when I was
it's a
looking at
carrot,
the
it's a
rates.
win-win. Like if we can get them to, if the proper maintenance is done, then we know they're functioning correctly and they get a credit.
Yeah.
So this is an all-new program, and you're just writing it right now?
Yeah, the maintenance agreements on the, the credit is, that's getting updated right now with our post-construction BMP program.
Yeah, those poorly maintained basins can actually exacerbate flooding when it just accumulates and then just gushes out. It's not percolating at all. It's just creating a giant gush of water that comes off of these sites sometimes. I don't know. Are you requiring on-site retention now on a lot of these larger facilities? I think, is that what the code is as well?
That's part of the planning process. And so with land development codes, when they go through their hydrologic studies, Kyle's probably not online, or Melinda.
Just curious. Yeah.
They submit drainage studies.
Okay. Any other questions?
Trevor, just a quick question as far as just administrative. For those units, whether it's, let's say for a multifamily unit, if there is there a mechanism that we have that we're working on that will, for those units or complexes that have an increase or even a decrease, that they notify residents of that? Since typically most apartment management companies have been increasing their rates every other year.
Right, and that was partially why I wanted, like Christy was going to participate, and unfortunately she wasn't feeling well.
Got it.
But she assured us that utility billing has procedures that put in place when they have these increase, decrease, basically change of processes. Because sometimes it's just wrong in the system, so you have to notify them that they have a big change because it just got corrected.
Okay.
And so we could certainly get back to you on that.
That would be good. I would want to know administratively.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, notifying the management company, but I'd like to know what due diligence is being done by the management company to notify residents.
Right. Yes, she said she could get back to us, anyone tomorrow.
Any other questions for Trevor? I think we're good for now. Any public comment? Anybody online?
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right, commissioners, would you like to talk about this anymore? Have any other questions, or would you like to move forward with adopting?
I would just say quickly, again, appreciate what we've been doing in the stormwater area. I think, we're going to see more high stormwater events, and we need to keep working on these, and appreciate the work and appreciate the complexity of ERUs and how this is done and trying to make it fair, and to see those examples, I think is appreciative. I mean, I do think there's going to be some people in for a big surprise, so we have to make sure we head that off as best we can. And then lastly, like I said, I did not focus on that last slide about the stormwater credit when I looked at this. I think actually that might be a very big deal going forward, and how that, one, could offset the surprise, but two, also get some of our stormwater up to speed. And I look forward to hearing more about that and how that's implemented. I think that's a bigger deal I didn't appreciate before tonight.
I think to your point, Commissioner or Vice Mayor, that information we need to ensure that information is being shared with folks who are part of multifamily dwellings. I understand that the impact would be huge for commercial, but I know I think where I live, we do have at least a stormwater, that piece of that best management practice right in front of the unit that I live in. And so if I know my management company is getting a discount because of this, but my prices are increasing, I want to know the difference in the why. And again, this is another way of empowering and educating our community on what's going on with them and how it impacts them.
Sure. Lisa?
Yeah, thank you for the discussion tonight. It's been really informative, and I appreciate it on both ends, both talks. We're starting to see a lot of big projects coming to fruition based on the work that the rates that we've been having to apply the past few years. So it's good to see that. It's it's great to just see the projects moving forward, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. I love using technology to try to be fair with the way we do charge people more money, and in this case, fairly spreading the costs across the burden where it's really happening. So a lot of technical information in here today. I appreciate all the information tonight, as always, but you keep hitting us over the head with this information. It's going to stick eventually, and I think it's stuck with a lot of us tonight, and I appreciate that. For us, I think it's about trying to make this affordable and try to provide the best and safest community. Flooding is something we've heard about probably more than anything else when we talk about land development, and I think what we can do to minimize flood risks, I think that's all we can really do at this point in time, other than, pray that we don't get hit with substantial downpours. But at this point in time, I feel like we're ready to adopt on first reading. So is there a motion?
Move to adopt on first reading ordinance number 10167.
Second.
Right, that's a motion by Finkeldye, seconded by Larson. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
It's a lot of utility talk. Thank you very much. Okay, commissioners, any commission items?
Just, Greg, I don't know if this is really a commission item as much as just now as we move ahead with the MSO campus, what we're going to do with some of the properties that will, in 2026 and 2027, just, start to think about, and I don't know who's going to be doing that or what your plan is for that, but, we'll have some properties coming open at some point and start thinking about what to do with those.
It's a good idea.
Divest? No. Yeah. Any other commissioner items? Okay. Thank you. Any future agenda item discussions? Next week?
We missing some things. Because I never got my inspection report, and I noticed that it's off the TBD.
It was going to be on tonight, and it needed to be moved, just, there was just some further review from staff, so
Okay.
it should be on, it is scheduled for next week.
Well, for next week.
We got time, looks like, too, so. There's only one item here, so.
I know, but
Okay.
it's,
And then I don't have the first meeting in November listed only because it will only be, because it's election, it'll just be consent items.
okay.
And we only just list kind of the regular agenda items or bigger items. So we do have a meeting, it's just, there's no items listed on here because it'll just be a consent agenda.
Okay.
And public comment generally, but that's up to you. But usually we just don't have regular agenda items on that meeting.
On December
Right.
2nd, yeah, okay. All right, any other questions on that? All right. Looks like commission calendar. Looks like got the Haratskas next week.
Yeah, I'll be absent
Everybody has
next week.
a safe trip and enjoyable time with our sister city there. That'll be great for the relationship. Is it 30 year? Is that what it is?
35th.
35, that's right, 35, okay. All right, anything else?